Hello, am I audible? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, our online viewers and students here with us. Today is the fifth day of our semester one session one presentation, and today the topic of the presentation is the history of English literature, paper 105 from 1315 to 1900. So again, in the morning session, we also observed and find that a good presentation students presented here. And in the noon session, students are going to present on various topics related to the history of English literature, and their presentation topics are: first, we have Vanita Baraiya on evolution of storytelling from manuscript and painting press to the digital internet age. Next, KRUTIBEN VYAS on English morality plays from medieval allegory to restoration drama. Sanjay Rathod will be presenting on Chaucer's use of irony from Canterbury Tales to social media. Then MAKWANA on the stage of power, political drama from Shakespeare to the Restoration. Then HELAIYA will be presenting on Elizabethan drama and modern storytelling lessons from today's media. Sandhya BHUT on the making of the modern mind from humanism to industrialism in English literature. Priyanka NAKRANI on Shakespeare in the 21st century. Next, CHAVDA will be presenting on the anatomy of a dimension, knowledge, desire, and the moral universe of Dr. Faustus. SIDDHIBA GOHIL on University Wits and the birth of modern English theatre. Siddharth Chauhan will be presenting on neoclassical drama from heroic plays to sentimental comedy. Next, Mulrajsingh GOHIL on the battle over the dictionary, Coleridge versus Wordsworth on poetic diction. Next, Radhika Mehta will be presenting on the impact of nature in romantic poetry. Next, Priya Rathod on the Victorian crisis of a faith and doubt, Tennyson and Arnold. Next, Nidhi Pandya will be presenting on the role of the critic, Matthew Arnold, and the ethics of disinterested judgment in the digital age. Next, Grisma Raval will be presenting on the artist and moralist, constraining visions of literature in Edgar Allan Poe and lineal trilling. Then the last one is Siddharth N. Chauhan, who will be presenting on From Silence to Spectacle, the literary invention of the media woman. So now I would like to invite our first presenter, Vanita Baraiya.
So, hello everyone. My name is Vanita Baraiya. So, my today's presentation topic is it? છે આમાં? હમણાં બંધ થયું. તમે આવ્યા એટલે તરત. So, hello everyone. My name is Vanita Baraya. So, my today's presentation topic is evolution of storytelling from manuscript and printing press to the digital internet age. So, today I will present on the evolution of storytelling from handwritten manuscript to digital internet age. This journey shows how human imaginations has adapted with technology over centuries. These are my academic details and presentation details. This is a table of contents. So my research question is that how technological innovations from manuscript and the printing press to digital platforms shaped the methods, reach, and impact of storytelling throughout history. So my hypothesis is that technological advancement significantly expand the accessibility, format, and audience engagement of storytelling, transforming it from a limited elite practice to a global interactive phenomenon. So first, introduction. Storytelling is one of the oldest form of human communication. Over time, the way we will tell stories has changed with new inventions like writing, printing, radio, and the internet. So in this presentation, I will show how each era transformed storytelling while keeping its core purpose the same, to connect the people. First, manuscript era before printing press. So before the printing press, stories were handwritten on parchment or scrolls by monks and scholars. So book were rare and expensive, so ordinary people relied on oral storytelling. So this period preserved a religious text and cultural memory, but limited knowledge to the elite. So printing press revolution in 15th century. So Gutenberg's invention around 1440 changed everything. So books could now be mass produced. Literary began to grow and ideas spread faster than ever. So the printing press helped fuel major movements like the Renaissance and Reformation. So knowledge became more democratic. So rise of novel and newspapers in 17th and 19th century. So in the 17th to 19th century, storytelling experienced a major shift with the emergence of the novel as a popular literary form. So novels allowed writer to explore complex characters, social issues, and imaginative plots. So appealing to a growing literate audience. So newspapers and magazines also became important platforms, often publishing serialized stories that kept readers engaged over the weeks or months. So this era marked the expansion of public literacy, so aided by libraries, subscription reading rooms, and educational programs, which gave more people access to literature and news. So storytelling was no longer limited to elites. So it reached the emerging middle class and even working class readers. So radio and television era in 20th century. So the 20th century introduced sound and moving images. So radio brought live stories and news into homes. So television added visuals, making storytelling more emotional and immediate. A famous example is Orson's Welles' War of Worlds broadcast, which created public panic because people believed it was real. So this era was also enable news and entertainment to be consumed in real time, connecting people across cities and countries. So now digital revolution and internet age, like 20th century and 21st century. So today the internet has created a global stage or storytelling. So blog, podcast, YouTube and social media allows anyone to share stories instantly. So unlike earlier eras, audience can now comment, remix and participate. So storytelling has become interactive and worldwide. For example, a YouTube web series provide serialized digital storytelling to millions of viewers worldwide. So Instagram stories and reels allows bite-sized visuals and narratives. So here is key differences across era. So as we compare eras, we see a clear pattern that manuscripts were limited to elites, printing opened access to the public, and digital media connects the entire world. So technology increased speed, reach, and participation in storytelling. So modern storytelling trends. So today's storytelling is no longer limited to books or films. So modern storytelling has moved to digital platforms where audience are active actively participants and now just listeners and not just listeners. So, for example, short videos on TikTok and Instagram Reels tell emotional, funny, or inspirational stories in under a minute. So, these bite-sized narratives spread quickly and reach millions in hours. So we also have YouTube and web series, so where independent creators tells series based stories without traditional TV or film studios. So this allow everyone to become a storyteller. So podcasts are another form of audio storytelling that can be fictional or documentary style. Shows like serial pro that people still enjoy listening to stories, just in a modern format. So overall, modern storytelling is visual, fast, interactive and global. So the power of storytelling is now in the hands of everyone and not just writer or publishers. So conclusion. So storytelling keep evolving with each technology, but its heart remains the same to express human experiences from quills to keyboard. We continue to tell stories to understand ourselves and each other. So these are my learning outcomes. These are references, and if you have any question.
So my question to you is that do you think technology has reduced the imagination because everything is visual now?
I think technology has reduced imagination, but when we talk about when earlier people say story and learn something from orally, and they had imagine with to their mind. So they imagine everything with their mind, so their imagination is different. So today we show that visuals like today we show visuals like films and videos and animations. So uh, it has shifted through our mental pictures and to visual creations. So it depends on us how we use technology. Anyone else?
So my question is that has social media made everyone a storyteller? Is that good or bad?
Yes, social media made everyone a storyteller, because everyone can express their thoughts, their emotions through post and reels and all the things. So everyone become storyteller. Even ordinary people can express their emotions and all. But I another side, I believe that people more focus on likes and their uh, they want to become famous and all. So it can uh, mm, it can negative point. So I think it depends on us that how we use technology. So thank you.
So hello everyone, myself Kruti Vyas, and today I am going to present English morality plays from medieval allegory to restoration drama. So here is my academic details with presentation details. This is a table of content which I will discuss today. So my research question is, how did the transformation of English morality place from the medieval period to the restoration era? It reflects changing conceptions of morality, religion and human agency within English society. Hypothesis: the evolution of English morality plays from allegorical didactic narrative of salvation to the satirical as well as secular comedies of restoration reflect a profound cultural shift. So, from the theocentric worldview centered on divine morality to an anthropocentric one emphasize social critics and moral ambiguity. Moral imperative from didacticism to critic. So here medieval allegorical dramas illustrating the spiritual struggle of mankind towards salvation. So here center figure like mankind or humanum genus. So morality plays here offered a unified vision of human life as well as destiny that a subsequent drama largely fragmented, and this genre here established a theater of the world, this offering a unified vision of human life as well as destiny. Presentation roadmap. Phase 1, the medieval theocentric foundation. So here the doctrine of salvation in allegory. So its characteristic like theocentric worldview, didacticism and allegory. Theocentric worldview consists God and the fate of the central soul, where the central concern. Here we can see that the struggle between the forces of good and evil. So over the protagonist like mankind or humanum genus. every man the archetypal structure. So every man exemplifies the memento mori themes, and as we can see that when death calls, companion fellowships, kindred and goods abandon him, and showing the futility of worldly attachment. So here and we can also see that here good deeds weakness symbolize here neglected spiritual life as well. Allegorical shift, wise figures and prototype. So here originally representing scene, he gained psychological depth as well as foreshadowing complex villain. So for example in plays like Mankind, so his charm and mischief drive the conflict. So core inequality like morality, agency, and societal reflection. So this shift is evident in the transition from every man's submission to divine law to the restoration Rex confident rejection of it. So here we can analyze how the protagonist fate is recontextualized, moving from eternal damnation to the social ruin or success of the witty restoration protagonist. Dr. Faustus, the Renaissance morality plays. So here Dr. Faustus transformed the morality plays into the tragic. As well as Faustus' hubris, his desire for limitless knowledge and power updates the medieval scene. Thematic evolution from heaven to humanism. So here playwrights start using the morality framework to explore the growing tension between individual desire and social expectation in early modern city. Transition to comedy. So here the transition shows a drama increasingly concerned with how live successfully in the world, not how to live it gracefully. So here the wise figure involved into witty, cynical scammer, pressure to Iago and restoration forms. The restoration and comedy of manners, anthropocentric shift. Restoration context, the moral inversion. So here we can see that moral lesson shift. Success comes from deceit and social cunning, not virtue. But the drama is not longer concerned with the state of the soul, but it concerned with appearance of the person in this public society. Comedy of manners. So, comedy of manners congreve and eventually finalize the secular transformation of morality plays. So, in these characters are allegorical social types like rag, phobe, and judged by society rather than God. So, here the morality plays final evolution is a satirical one. Proof of hypothesis. So ultimately this evidence presented from the didactic allegory of every man to the tragic individualism of Faustus and finally to the social critique found in Comedy of Manners. So here confirm the central hypothesis as well as the evolution demonstrate a deceived culture shift away from theocentric morality where the rules of the life are divinely mandated and toward the anthropocentric. So, where moral success is measured by only individual reasons, wit, and performance within the society. Conclusion. So, the morality plays gave English drama a lasting framework centered on the protagonist's moral struggle. And even today, we can see this structure shaped the stories about ethical conflicts in the politics and society. And so, proving that drama ultimately explore the moral choices define human destiny. Further research and discussion. So the role of female agency. So we can hear questioning how did the representation of female characters in morality plays evolve into witty, powerful, as well as often cynical female leads in restoration comedy. Second one, political allegory, in which to what extent did late morality plays becomes veiled political critics during the Vilayet, Elizabethan, and early start periods. And the third one is modern relevance. So, are there modern days dramatic forms that fulfill the original didactic purpose of morality plays? This is my learning outcomes. By the end of this presentation, I have learned how compare the theocentric worldview of medieval morality plays with a anthropocentric focus of restoration drama, as well as I also analyze how major culture shifts like Reformation, humanism redefine concept of religious morality and human agency on the stage. These are the references. Thank you so much. Questions are welcome.
So, Kruti, how do modern films and TV shows use allegorical characters or moral dilemmas in a way similar to medieval morality plays?
Modern films and TV use character and the moral dilemmas like medieval morality plays, showing the struggle between good and evil. So we can see heroes often virtue and villains often wise. So and story highlights consequences of choices and teaching audience to a lesson in contemporary and also entertaining way. Anyone else?
So my question is that how does the transformation from allegorical character to psychologically complex restoration figures reveal changing conceptions of morality and human nature in English drama?
So the shift from a symbolic figure like every man to realistic character reflect growing interest in individual experience and as well as modern complexity. So here revealing how ideas of virtue and vice involved with changing social values. So thank you. That is from all my side.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. I am Sanjay Rathod. Today I will present Chaucer's use of irony from Canterbury Tales to social media. This presentation explores how Chaucer's 14th century irony technique provide a lens for understanding 21st century digital communication. Both medieval texts and social media demand sophisticated interpretation due to compared forms and self-aware performance. By examining perspective on perennial communication challenges and develop crucial digital legacy skills. Here is my academic detail and presentation detail. Here is the table of content. My research question is, how do Chaucer's ironic technique in the Canterbury Tales, Troilus, and Christ and the House of Fame help us understand modern social media practice of self-presentation, authenticity, and audience perception? In this presentation's hypothesis is, Chaucer's irony anticipates social media behavior through unreliable narration, audience misreading, parody, performance, and blurred literal or ironic meaning, making his method useful for analyzing today's digital communication. In the introduction, Chaucer pioneered doubleness of vision in the narration, focusing reader to reconcile contradiction truth. Medieval audiences recognized this sophistication and innovation that directly mirror social media's curated self-presentation and layered meanings. Understanding this historical framework for evaluating unreliable narration is crucial for navigating today's complex digital world. He was a very prophet Gentile knight. Strategic self-presentation in 3087. Chaucer's general prologue uses ironic phrases to reveal character, where morally problematic details are presented as virtue. This technique directly anticipates social media profile, where strategic curation paradoxically exposes medieval portrait illumination, how contemporary self-presentation, despite its carefully constructed image, often reveal what is the attempt to conceal. Thus can I purge again that same vice, which that I use. The partners openly confuses his manipulative intent, yet still successfully exploit his audience. Modern influencers operate similarly, discussing monetization while maintaining authentic persona. Both demonstrate that transparency about manipulate doesn't prevent success. Instead, it can become another layer of performance with audience knowingly participating. That shall be dead, dramatic irony and viral misinterpretation. The rioters' tragic literal interpretation of that mirror modern digital misinterpretation, where satirical content is mistaken for facts. Platform algorithms strip contextual clues, making it hard to discern ironic content intent. This highlights post law, where extreme parody is indistinguishably for sincere expression, a principle Joseph's tale foreshadowed centuries ago. Experienced through non-octrate when the sermons understand the preacher. The wife of Bath champions personal experience over authority, a foundational claim of influencer culture. She preaches standards, she violates creating layer irony. This mirror modern wellness gurus or relationship coaches whose expertise team for personal narratives, not credential. Confident assertion, regardless of contradiction, thrives in both contexts. Taketh the morality, good men, stories that comment on themselves. The nun's priest tale exhibits extreme metafiction offering contradiction moral and celebrating artifice. This align with memes culture, layered meanings, intertextual reference, and ironic distance both require sophisticated literature to decode multiple simultaneous meaning, recognize performance, and finding humor in acknowledge artificiality rather than seeking absolute truth. What needed feigned love for to sake, performance and authenticity. Troilus and Christ illustrate how cruel courtly loves demand necessity deception. Relationship in built to perform, like those on dating app, often lead to unfeigned imitation of genuine connection. The narrator's question about feigned love reveal how constant performance to maintain impossible idea ultimately collapse authentic connection. Many are tied ends, medieval information chaos and digital feed. The House of Fame chaotic structure where truth and lies merge anticipates social media's epistemological crisis like Twitter feeds or TikTok. It agrees unverified information, collapsing traditional hierarchy. The abrupt ending suggests this problematic lacks easy resolution. Once hierarchy dissolves, distinguishing reliable and unreliable sources become structural impossible. A violet only now uncovered, centuries of misreading Chaucer. Chaucer's irony was recognized in his own time, but interpreted differently across centuries. From satiric intent to philosophical detachment, similarly, future generation many misread today's digital irony without culture context for evolving emoji meaning or memes format. This highlights how interpretation is era dependent, making cross temporal understanding content challenge. 700 years later, why Chaucerian irony still matters. Chaucer's irony techniques, unreliable narration, performative contradiction, structural satire directly illuminate social media's complexity. Medieval literature strategies like distinguishing performance from truth and recognize format critics are essential to navigate digital landscape. Study 14th century textual strategies, develop critical thinking needed for 21st century, where authenticity is perpetually contested. Here is the references what I have taken. Thank you everyone. Now, anyone have question, please ask.
So my question is that can you give a simple reason why you compared the pardoner to a modern day influencer?
The partner is like a modern influencer because he uses a powerful message in his case. Religion, not because he believes in, but to get money and fame from his audience. He is more interested in personal gain in the product he promoting. Next question.
What is the most important lesson we can learn from Chaucer's use of irony that applies to our lives today?
The most important lesson is to think critically about what we see and read, especially in social media, so that there is often a big difference between how things are appear and where actually it is true. It teaches us to question the surface and look for real meaning. Thank you, everyone. This is all from my side.
Hello everyone, myself Mansi MAKWANA, and today I will presenting on the stage of power, political drama from Shakespeare to the Restoration. These are my academic and presentation details. These are table of contents and research question and the hypothesis. So my research question asks, how did English drama from Shakespeare to the Restoration reflect, critique and shape political structure and power dynamics of its time? My hypothesis assumes that English political drama between the Elizabethan and Restoration periods functions as both a mirror and mediator of power. Shakespeare's play interrogated authority and exposed political instability, while Restoration theatre adapted and reshaped these narratives to legitimize monarchy, demonstrating that theatre served as a performative shape where political and social authority was continuously negotiated. Then move to introduction. Political reflection on a stage of power. From Shakespeare to the Restoration, English drama reflect the changing relationship between politics and performance. Also, the stage became a space where authority, rebellion, and legitimacy were publicly acted out and contested. According to Hunter, Shakespeare's stage transformed political debate into moral and emotional experiences. Also, they refined a role of the dramatist. The playwright emerged as both a moral commentator and a political analyst, shaping how audiences understand power. Then, Shakespeare and political theatre. Political instability. Shakespeare's play revealed the fragility and uncertainty of political power, showing how rulers face constant threats from ambition, rebellion, and public opinion. His works highlight that authority is never guaranteed and it always subject to challenge. According to Hunter, the theater itself is political because it stages obedience and dissent. Shakespeare's stage become a forum where power, loyalty, and rebellion are dramatized, allowing audiences to witness the moral and political stakes of rulership. Then the protest and the people in Henry VI. According to Fitter's argument, Fitters observes that Henry VI registered an emergent politics of protest, using Jack Cad's The Rebellion to dramatize popular uprising and dissatisfaction with authority. The play highlights how social unrest could challenge established hierarchies. Also, political awakening. The resistance of commoners in the play illustrates the beginnings of early modern political consciousness, criticize how shown as active participation in shaping political outcomes, signaling a shift in attention from rulers alone to the broader social body. Then Renaissance power and Stuart dramaturgy. A Cox comparative view. According to Cox, he compares Shakespeare, Milton, and Drayton, highlighting how political drama evolves over time. From the Renaissance focus on moral inquiry and the ethical responsibilities of rulers, the stage gradually moves toward Stuart absolutism, where plays reinforce the authority of the monarchy. Over this period, the dramatist's role shifts from interrogating and questioning power of legitimacy and the defending authority. Theater becomes a tool for supporting political order, showing that drama is not just entertainment but also a means of shaping public perception of governors. Then, a political Shakespeare and Restoration adaptations. Olson shows that this restoration adaptation of Coriolanus was deliberately rewritten to remove its revolutionary and rebellious undertones, creating a satire Shakespeare that aligned with royal ideology and censorship under Charles II. Then, theater as a political instrument. The adapted Coriolanus served as a tool of political reconciliation, showing how even plays that appear apolitical can function to stabilize monarchy and reinforce authority. And shifting stages of power from the Elizabethan to the Restoration period, English theatre reflected the political climate. Early drama questioned kingship amid rebellion. Caroline and Commonwealth theatre explored moral and political conflicts under the censorship. These are my learning outcomes throughout this presentation. Then conclusion, the English stage from Shakespeare to the Restoration reflects the changing nature of political power. Shakespeare's play questions authority, showing the fragility of kingship and the moral burdens of rulers, while Restoration drama, including Dryden, reinforces monarchy and aligns theatre with royal ideology. At the same time, theatre gives voice to popular protest and social unrest, as in the Henry VI, showing that drama can both challenge and support authority. These are my references, and thank you. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
So my question is that how does theatre today reflect political tension, social issues and public dissent similar to Shakespeare's exploration of power and rebellion?
So basically, today's theater shows problems in politics and society, just like Shakespeare's play did. It talks about unfairness, protest, and fights for power, helping people think and talk about important issues. Anyone else?
My question is, why is it important to study all political drama to understand modern social and political issues?
Studying all political plays help us understand how power and society work in the past. They show fights, protests, and problems that still happen today. So thank you. This is from my side.
Good afternoon, friends. My name is HELAIYA. Today, I am going to present my topic on Elizabethan drama and modern storytelling lessons for today's media. This is my academic information. This is table of contents, research question and hypothesis. My research question is, how do the narrative techniques and themes of Elizabethan drama influence modern storytelling forms such as films, television, and graphic novels? Hypothesis: Elizabethan drama continues to shape modern storytelling by inspiring techniques like character complexity, meta theater, and social commentary, which help modern media engage audiences and reflect contemporary issues. Introduction: Elizabethan drama, which was popular in the late 1500 and early 1600, introduced new ways of telling stories. These plays had interesting and complex characters, exciting plots, and themes about power, identity, and society. They not only entertained people but also made them think about the world around them, including social issues, human emotions, and moral questions. Today, movies, TV shows, comics, and graphic novels often use similar storytelling methods, showing that these old plays are still very relevant. This presentation will explore how the ideas, characters, and techniques from Elizabethan drama continue to inspire and shape modern storytelling, helping audiences connect with stories in meaningful ways. Elizabethan drama key features: Elizabethan plays have complex and realistic characters who face moral choices and conflicting emotions, making them relatable. Characters show psychological depth, thinking, and feeling like real humans. Plays often use meta theater, including soliloquies, plays within plays, and direct audience interactions. Here, meta theater means a play. A type of play that it's know that play it makes audience think about the story and characters, not only just for feel emotions. Here soliloquies means character talk to themselves. Many plays, including satire and social commentary, reflecting political, religious, and social issues of the time. Themes explore human nature, power, identity, and society. These plays combine entertainment with lesson about life and morality. Techniques from Elizabethan drama are still used today in movies, TV, and comics. Meta theater and audience engagement. Meta theater, a type of theater where the play is aware of itself as a play. It engages the audience emotionally and intellectually, making them think about the story and characters. Techniques use soliloquies, plays within plays, breaking the fourth wall, and characters aware of their roles. Here, fourth wall means character speaks directly to the audience. Purpose: these techniques make the audience reflect on the action, question reality versus performance, and feel more connected to the characters. Modern equivalent: many films and TV shows use similar methods like self aware storytelling or breaking the fourth wall. Impact: makes storytelling interactive and dynamic, a technique from Elizabethan drama that remains effective today. Character complexity and representation. Challenging social rules, Elizabethan plays often question society's rules about gender, race, and power. Characters were not simply good or bad, but had mixed feelings and emotions. Modern adaptations, contemporary media retell these stories, giving characters more depth and exploring social issues. Impact. Stories with complex and realistic characters help audience understand different perspectives and think critically about society. Social commentary and politics reflecting society. Elizabethan plays often highlighted political and religious issue of time, commenting on authority and societal rules to make the audience think critically. Critique through storytelling. Writers use humor, satire, and serious themes to reveal problems in society, encouraging reflection and discussion. Audience impact. Both Elizabethan drama and modern media encourage viewers to reflect on society, question authority, and consider moral and ethical choices. Adaptation into modern media, comics and graphic novels. Many modern comics and graphic novels retell Shakespeare's and other Elizabethan plays. They use pictures and text to bring old stories to life and make them easy to understand for today's readers. Soliloquy as internal thoughts. Techniques like soliloquies, where a character speaks their thoughts aloud, are now used in movies and TV as internal monologues or voiceovers, helping audiences understand characters' feelings. Serial storytelling. TV shows often follow a series of episodes that tell a bigger story, similar to how Elizabethan plays were structured in acts and scenes. Visual impact. Modern adaptations use visual and creative storytelling to make the story engaging, just like the stage use scenery, costumes, and acting to capture attention. Lessons for today's storytelling. New narrative styles. Elizabethan drama inspired new ways of telling stories, such as using flashbacks, mixed timelines, and multiple plots happening together. These techniques are common in modern films and series. Audience connection. Just like Elizabethan plays involved the audience, today's media use interactive storytelling, breaking the fourth wall, and strong social messages to connect with viewers. Modern relevance. These lessons show that old literature still guides modern creators in exploring ethics, diversity, and creativity in storytelling. Enduring influence. The mix of art, dialogue, and audience reflection in Elizabethan drama continues to shape how stories are told in movies, games, and digital platforms. Conclusion. Elizabethan drama still plays a major role in shaping modern storytelling. Its techniques like meta theater, deep and complex characters, and strong social messages continues to influence how stories are told in films, television, comics, and digital media today. By understanding the ideas and style of historical drama, we can better appreciate and analyze the stories around us. It helps us see how modern creators borrow from the past to make their work more powerful, meaningful, and creative. These are the references. Thank you. Now, questions are welcome.
My question is, how do Elizabethan play teach us about human psychology?
Elizabethan play shows human feelings like love, guilt, and jealousy through characters like Hamlet and Lady Macbeth. Other question.
My question is to you, can drama influence society like it did in the 16th?
Yes, drama can influence society by showing new ideas and changing how people think about their life, feelings, right and wrong. They faced problems just like in the 16th century. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm audible. Today's my presentation topic is the making of the modern mind from humanism and industrialism in English literature. These are my academic details and presentation details. This is the table of content. My research questions is that how does English literature from the Renaissance to the Victorian period show the transformations of human thoughts from the value of humanisms to the idea of the industrialisms, and how do these literary changes help us understand similar challenges in today's technological world? My hypothesis is that the journey of English literature from the Renaissance to the industrial age reflect deep changes in how people think and feel. Literature moves from celebrating human creativity and emotions to focus on reason, science, and machinery. This change not only shaped a modern society but also continues today in the age of artificial intelligence and technology, where we again face the conflict between human value and mechanical progress. Introductions. English literature shows how human thinking has developed over century. The journey of the Renaissance to the industrial age reveals how faith, reasons, and imagination shaped human progress. This process, known as the making of the modern mind, marks humanity's shift from religious dependence to uh, uh, intellectual independence. Modern society still face the same moral questions: progresses versus humanity, and technology versus emotions. Literature teaches that true development must balance reasons, emotions, and ethics. Renaissance humanism's awakening of the individual. The Renaissance celebrated human potentials, creativity, and freedom. Thinkers placed human at the center of knowledge instead of a divine authority. Literature reflects self-awarenesses and a moral struggle in characters. Works like Dr. Faustus shows the excitement and danger of human ambitions. Shakespeare's play highlight emotional and moral depth, exploring human choice and individuality. The age introduced the idea of the modern individual capable of shaping their destiny through knowledge and imaginations. The age of reasons, logic, science, and order. The alignment values logic, science, and structured thought. Writers believe reason could improve society and bring justice and balance. Literature emphasizes clarity, order, and moral reflections. The rational spirit encourage scientific discovery and beginnings of industrial progress. However, this focus on reasons often ignored human emotion and creativity. The alignment mind taught people to value fact, but also want that reasons without a feeling leads to emptinesses. Romanticism, emotion, and imaginations against industrialism. Romanticism emerged as reactions against cold logic and reasons and industrial life. Writers celebrated emotions, imaginations, and the power of nature. They believe that machines and urbanizations destroy human feeling and moral connections. Wordsworth's poems highlights emotional truth and place in nature's. Blake's dark satanic mills warn against the loss of humanity caused by industrial greed. Romantic writers remains reminded society that imaginations and empathy are as vital as reasons. Their message still apply today. Technology should never place emotional understanding. Industrial progress and its human cost. The industrial revolution changed society completely. Factories, critics, and classes divisions appeared. It's a broad marital growth, but also poverty and inequality and emotional loss. Literature expose the moral failures of industrial society. Dickens' Hard Times criticize educations based only on fact and profit, showing how it kills imaginations. Writers like uh, g- Writers like Glasscales and showed sympathy for the suffering of workers. Industrial literature become a moral voice, reminding a reader that progress without empathy harms society. The period proved that machines can improve life, but only if human remains compassionate. The modern mind, knowledge with consequences. Over time, human thinking become a more advanced and complex. The modern mind gained science and logic, but risk losing morality and emotions. Literature becomes a mirror of this struggle between intellect and feeling. True progress means combining rational thought with moral awarenesses. The loss of humanism and romanticism remains us to balance intelligence with empathy. The modern thinkers must reasons, creativity, and consequences to stay truly human. Relevance today, technology and the AI age. The challenges of the industrial age are reflected in the digital era. Today's machines are digital. AI, automations, and social media shape our worlds. Like in the 19th century, society risk valuing data over filling and productivity over humanity. Literatures help us reflect on importance of creativity and ethics in a modern life. Writers warnings about the dehumanizations are more relevant than ever. The modern mind must stay emotional, imaginative, and ethical, even in a world driven by machines. Conclusion: the path from humanism to industrialism shows humanity's growth in a thought, emotions, and ethics. Progress is necessary, but it becomes dangerous without empathy. In the digital and AI worlds, we face the same choice as Victorians. Machines effect or moral humanity. Literature continues to remind us that progresses must serve people, not replace them. The true modern mind is intellect, moral, and imaginative, and compassionate. This is my learning outcomes. References. Thank you. If anyone any questions.
My question is to you: in what way does Shakespeare's Hamlet reflect early modern humanism compared to Dickens' Hard Times, which reflects industrial society?
In Shakespeare's Hamlet, explore the inner self and moral questioning, hallmarks of humanisms. Hard times expose the loss of imaginations and compassion in industrialized worlds. Together, they show how human values evolve from reflections to rationality and then to social critique. Next. Next.
My question is, how does art change from the Renaissance to the industrial age?
Renaissance art focus on harmony, natures, and human emotions. Industrial arts focus often showed smoke, machinery, and social. The artist moved from celebrating beauty to questioning a modern life purpose. Thank you. That's from my side.
So, hello everyone. My name is Priyanka, and today I'm going to present Shakespeare in the 21st century. This is my academic and personal presentation details, and this is my presentation's roadmap. And let's start with research question. How are Shakespeare's play adapted and interpreted in 21st century theater, film, and media to maintain relevance for contemporary audiences? So my hypothesis is modern adaptation of Shakespeare's work strategically balance historical authenticity with contemporary culture elements, ensuring that his themes, characters, and narrative resonance with 21st century audiences. So let's focus on Shakespeare on the modern stage. First, modern directors reinterpret Shakespeare's to reflect current social, politic, and cultural realities, emphasize on accessibility, updated language, diverse casting, and dynamic staging. Nicholas Rowe's early adaptation paved that way of modern reinterpretations. Theoretical innovation focuses on connecting Elizabeth emotion with 21st century expression. Contemporary production blend classical text with modern technology and performance style. The enduring appeals of Shakespeare lie in his adaptability to new audience and context. So let's focus on early modern context and performance. Shakespeare's era thrived on vibrant network of players, patrons, and performing companies, tenturing trumps and rational performance expanded access to drama beyond London. So portrayed system-shaped theoretical opportunities and artistic freedom, and also performs space and audience diversity influence Shakespeare's writing and staging choices. Understanding how modern mobility depends modern interpretations of authenticity and performance. Contemporary theatre often revived those historical practices to reconnect his Shakespeare's original spirit. So now forward. Shakespeare in film and media. So how Shakespeare in modern time is relevant. 21st century cinema and television reinvent Shakespeare for global and digital audiences. Modern adaptation explore how new genres, settings, and perspective while preserving core themes. Filmmaker also emphasize that visual storytelling and emotional realism over strict textual fidelity, and uncanny fidelity emerge when modern visual echoes Shakespeare's timeless human conflicts. Cross-culture and experimental films extend Shakespeare's reach beyond traditional English theatre. Media adaptation reframe his universal appeal and narrative flexibility in rapidly evolving cultural landscapes. So my critical study and analysis from my presentation is early from references. Early critics like George Brand emphasize Shakespeare moral depth and human complexity. Sidney Lee emphasize and other views on Shakespeare as a bridge between Elizabeth culture and the modern thought. Later, analysis that highlights Shakespeare linguistic and mastery and dramatic innovation. So contemporary scholars also emphasize focus on adaptation theory and culture reinterpretations. Critical evaluation moves from biographical and textual reading to media, performance, and audience studies. Shakespeare's enduration reflect his capacity for invention across time, form, and critical perspective. Modern criticism underscores that Shakespeare's relevance as a living text continuously reshaped by new media and audiences. So, here is my hypothesis proven because modern adaptation balance historical authenticity with contemporary relevance by adapting settings, dialogues, and characters while keeping core themes intact. Stage and screen productions make Shakespeare relatable to 21st century audiences and proving his work remain timeless and adaptable. So evidence from modern stage adaptations is directors updating setting, language, and themes while keeping original narrative intact. And here is the evidence from my from film and media. Movie and TV series reinterpret plots, characters for global audiences, maintaining Shakespeare's cores and themes. Evidence from critical study also. Scholars highlights the continued relevance and adaptability of Shakespeare's work across centuries. And here, conclusion of my presentation is 21st century performance and adaptations validate and hypothesis showing that Shakespeare's work are both authentic to their origins and relevant to contemporary society. So, conclusion part is Shakespeare's work continue to live and grow in 21st century because they speak to emotions, experience that never fade. Modern directors and filmmakers and also writers reshape his play to reflect today's social and culture realities while keeping his original spirit alive. For example, a film like 10 Things I Hate About You, a modern play, a modern TV series, and performs set in urban spaces show how timeless his idea remain. Whether on stage, on screen, Shakespeare's story of love, power, ambition, and identity still connect deeply with new generations, proving that his art is truly universal and eternal. So here is my presentation's learning outcome. First, understand how Shakespeare's work remain alive in 21st century through theater, film, and digital media. So here, recognizing how modern directors and writers reinterpret his play to reflect contemporary social issues such as gender, power, identity, explore and also explore that connection between early modern performance traditions and today global theater practices. And my presentation analysis analyze how critical perspectives has evolved from textual and biographical readings to modern media and adaptation studies. Evaluate how technology and globalization have expanded Shakespeare's culture influence across borders, and also develop an understanding of how Shakespeare as a living, evolving, and culture icon shaped by each generation's value. So here is my references, and thank you. So if anyone has question, feel free to ask.
So my question to you, Priyanka, why is Shakespeare considered a living text in 21st century media?
Okay. So because his story is all about feeling love, power, and everyone can understand. And second thing is his characters are real and realistic. So for audiences, and also play can be changed for to fit different time and different place. And also his theater, TV shows, and also movie keep his story alive today also. Anyone else?
How do filmmakers balance Shakespeare's original story with cultural and contemporary elements in Indian cinema?
Okay. The first element is change the setting, and change the setting to Indian location. Like we can put here one example, Omkara in rural life and rural settings. Most of setting is rural, and rename and adjust the characters. And third is highlights the social issue. Sorry, modern issues like feminism and feminism and politics, like, and also a local matlab, we can add one example like add local culture like festivals. And that's it. Thank you everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sagar Chavda. My presentation topic for today is the anatomy of damnation, knowledge, desire, and the moral universe of Dr. Faustus. These are my academic and presentation details. This is the table of contents. My research question is, how does Marlowe's Dr. Faustus present a multi-layered anatomy of damnation where philosophical, social, and personal transgressions interlock within a rigid theological framework to ensure the protagonist's fall? My hypothesis is Faustus' damnation is a process, not a single event. His philosophical choice to pursue knowledge as power motivates a tragic individualism and an isolating desire, which ultimately leads to the theological sin of despair. Introduction and Anatomy of Damnation. Dr. Faustus is more than a simple cautionary tale. It is a profound anatomy of damnation, revealing a fall that is simultaneously philosophical, social, and theological. Here we will dissect Faustus' transgression, arguing that his damnation is the result of an interlocking series of sins, from his intellectual hubris to his isolating desires. We will move beyond simply asking why Faustus falls to examine how he falls, exploring the precise moral, psychological, and spiritual mechanisms of his damnation. The philosophical sin, the morality of knowledge. The serpent's promise. The central temptation in the play is the serpent's promise from Genesis that knowledge can make man a god. Faustus falls for this most deadly and destructive of all untruths. And here, Dr. Faustus want to become powerful through knowledge. Faustus' sin is not the desire for knowledge itself, but his desire for knowledge as an instrument of power. He seeks to become a mighty god, aspiring to a power that belongs only to the divine. His fall is the result of a disordered love of knowledge, a love that seeks to possess and control creation rather than understand and serve it. This is his fundamental philosophical error. In his opening soliloquy, Faustus rejects traditional fields of learning because they do not grant him ultimate power of divinity. He scoffs, "What will be, shall be, divinity, adieu." This act of prioritized power over wisdom seals his philosophical path. The another sin that Dr. Faustus commits is the social sin. And his tragedy is the tragedy of individualism here. The emerging individual. Faustus embodies the Renaissance shift towards an individual-centric worldview, moving away from God or community. But this transmission is so much that it leads to the fall of Dr. Faustus himself. His quest for self-sufficiency, his pact represents a drastic effort to achieve absolute personal freedom, free from the moral and theological limitations of his era. This individualism is inherently antisocial, serving his connections to the human community and its shared moral structures in pursuit of a private, self-serving ambition. And his main motive after gaining knowledge is the personal motives rather than helping society and the world. This freedom is deceptive. He trades his servitude to God for a moral, literate, and degrading servitude to Lucifer, illustrating that the individual cannot exist in isolation. The personal sin, the isolation of desire. Beyond knowledge, Faustus' bargain is not just for abstract knowledge. His intense personal bond with Mephistopheles is central to his motivation. Faustus constantly addresses Mephistopheles with terms of endearment. His cry, "Sweet Mephistopheles," reveals a bond that is a parody of a master-scholar relationship, infused with a powerful and often homoerotic charge. The personal is tragic. His transgression is not, therefore, just an abstract intellectual sin, but a deeply personal and psychological one. His declaration, "Had I as many souls as there be stars, I would give them all for Mephistopheles. This is his aspiration and love for knowledge that he do this to says this to Mephistopheles. It is not about knowledge, but about a person. This desire is fundamentally isolating. It creates a private, enclosed wall between the scholar and the devil, cutting Faustus off from the human community and divine grace. The theological consequences that follows are the unforgivable sin. The play hinges on the theological concept of despair, the sin against the Holy Ghost. It is the sin that cannot be forgiven, and because it is a rejection of forgiveness itself. So at the end, we say that we see that Dr. Faustus do not get any forgiveness from the divine power when Mephistopheles came to get his soul. The voice of despair. Faustus and articulates this scene perfectly when he laments, "My heart's so hardened I cannot repent." He believes himself to be beyond the reach of grace, and in doing so, he makes it so. Faustus is damned not because God is cruel, but because he lacks faith in the power of mercy. His tragedy is a rejection of redemption. In his final moments, he sees the symbol of ultimate mercy. See, where Christ's blood streams in the firmament. But in this despair, he immediately turns back to Lucifer, proving he has fully succumbed to the unforgivable sin. This is the table where you can analyze what kind of sins that Dr. Faustus committed and what were the natures of that, and these are the key scholarly insights from that. Conclusion. Faustus' damnation is not a single act but a complex anatomy of sin, beginning with a philosophical error about the nature of knowledge that initiates sin, motivates a tragic individualism and a self-isolating desire which serves his connection to both the human and divine communities. Ultimately, he is damned not by the power of the demonic but by his own final tragic submission to despair. These are my references. These are my learning outcomes. Thank you. If anyone has any question.
So, Sagar, my question is, how do religious power and Faustus' personal flow work together to ensure his domination?
At first, Dr. Faustus wants to seek knowledge, but it is not for the good for the world, but he wants this knowledge entirely by himself, and he wants to become a mighty God and a divine power by gaining that knowledge. But at the end, we see his damnation because he do not follow the moral principles of the world, and the divine power or God punishes him for doing so. And this is how these two uh, powers, such as Faustus' personal flow and his rejection of divine and moral dilemmas of the world, ensures his damnation. If anyone else.
So my question to you, what does Foster's story say about the danger of waiting too much power or knowledge?
Wanting too much power or knowledge is not bad, but the way Dr. Faustus and the why Dr. Faustus wants this power is another question. Dr. Faustus wants this power and for himself. He wants to rule the world and he wants to possess all the knowledge that is in this world, but not for to do good for the world and to do anything for the world, but he wants this to ensure that his power will make him God, and that's why. But anything, if you want power, it is not bad. But why do you want this power? or knowledge? It is the question. Thank you, everyone.
So, hello everyone, myself SIDDHIBA GOHIL, and my today's topic is University Wits and their contribution in Elizabethan period. These are my academic details and presentation details. Table of content. And my research question is, to what extent did the University Wit synthesizes of classical dramatic principles and native English theatrical tradition fundamentally transform the structural complexity and thematic sophistication of English drama, thereby establishing the foundation for the Elizabethan Golden Age? So my hypothesis is the introduction of classical structure and the adaptation of high impact poetic language led to a measurable increase in the thematic depth and structural coherence of play produced between 1588 and 1603, making them as the indispensable precedor of to the major dramatic achievements of William Shakespeare. So, introduction. In 1590s mark as a transformative decade in English drama, just before Shakespeare's rise. The university wits, six well-educated men from Oxford and Cambridge, elevated popular theatre by infusing native tradition and classical structure, wit and poetic power. Though not a formal group, they collaborated, competed, and quarreled, being coherence and innovation to the stage. Their work bridged medieval drama and the Elizabethan Golden Age, emphasizing themes of ambition, love, and morality. So, historical content. During the Elizabethan age, England flourished under Queen Elizabeth I, especially after the 1588 defeat of the Spanish Armada. Literature evolved from rigid to forms and to informative, creative expressions. The university wits emerged, aimed a barbering theater scene, writing for public stages and court performances. Their university background introduced classical influences, transforming drama from moral influence to sophisticated comedies and tragedies. This period ended with Elizabethan deaths in 1603, ushering in the Jacobean age. The next point is university wits. John Lilly was a courtier dramatist known for his elaborate prose style for abuses the autonomy of wit. He wrote sophisticated comedies for child actors at the Children of the Chapel Royal and Paul's Boy, blending mythology and romance. Though seeking court favor, he never achieved lasting fame, influencing later writers with his witty artificial language. Thomas Lodge. Thomas had a limited dramatic output but collaborated on popular work like A Looking Glass for London and England with Robert Greene. His prose romance, Rosalind, directly inspired Shakespeare's As You Like It. Lodge's contribution blended moral allegory with adventures, narratives, showcasing university within accessible forms. Next one is Christopher Marlowe. He was born on the same year as Shakespeare, pioneered blank verse with his mighty line of a rhetorical power. Plays like Dr. Faustus and Tambourine explored ambition and overreaching, killed young in a traven ball. Marlowe's tragic heroes as a poetic invention profoundly influenced Shakespeare and the era's drama. The next one is Robert Greene. Older than Shakespeare, was a prolific writer of romances, pamphlets, and plays, known for his Ferrer Bacon and Ferrier Bungay. Exploring magic like Marlowe's Faustus, he infamously criticized Shakespeare in a God's Worth of Wit. Ironically, his Pens- Pendusto inspired the writer's tale. His life of deception ended in poverty. The next one is Thomas Nash, expelled in satirical prose like The Unfortunate Traveller, a picturesque tale of Henry VIII's era. His drama included Odd Summer's Last Will and Testament, and the scandalous The Isles of Dogs, co-written with Ben Jonson, landing them in jail. Nash sharp wit targeted social views. Contribution to English drama, the university Wits professionalized drama, introducing classical structure, vivid blank words, and complex characters. They evaluated language with wit and rhetoric, blending comedy and tragedy. Their sources inspired Shakespeare as they bridged university learning with popular theatre, fostering the Elizabethan boom. Datta notes their role in transforming English literature into delightful being with imagination. The next topic is legacy and influence. The Wits era left an indelible mark, paving the way of Shakespeare's genius. Their innovations in form, language, and themes enriched English drama, making it a global force. Despite personal tragedies, their work symbolized Renaissance creativity, as Datta described, from a shell into a delightful being with imagination, creativeness, and boldness stories. So, conclusion: the university wits Lilly, Lodge, Marlowe, Greene, Nashi, and Pili ignited the Elizabethan dramatic revolution. Their wit, structure, and blonde themes professionalized theatre, influencing Shakespeare and beyond. This group of 50 well educated men turned popular drama into high art, embodying the era's boundless creativity. So, these are my references. Thank you. If question are welcome.
So, Siddhi, my question is, how did Christopher Marlowe's treatment of black verse revolutionize English tragedy and influenced subsequent playwrights and included Shakespeare?
Marlowe's use of blank verse added power and emotion to English literature and tragedy, inspiring Shakespeare's poetic style. Next.
My question is, in what specific ways did the university Wits transform native English dramatic traditions like the interlude and chronicle play with their classical education and heroic themes?
Here, the university Wits emerged a classical learning with native drama, creating heroic themes and complex characters shaped Elizabethan theatre. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is SIDDHARTH. My presentation topic is Neoclassical drama from heroic play to sentimental comedy. My personal details and academic details, table of contents, research question, how does argument about the persistence of allegory challenge the traditional view represented by that European drama evolved from medieval allegory to Renaissance realism. Hypothesis, while earlier critics like so a sharp historical break between allegorical and realistic drama, the continuity suggested by Brown uh, indicates that allegory did not disappear but transform within a mimetic forms. Therefore, European drama should be viewed not as a movement from allegory to realism, but as a continuous dialogue between the two traditions. Introduction. Traditional critics like believe that European drama changed uh, completely in the 16th century from the moral allegories of medieval plays to the realistic or mimetic drama of Shakespeare's age. However, the persistence of allegories challenges uh, this view. She argues that allegory did not disappear but continued to shape later drama in new way. This study explores how argues uh, redefines drama history as a balance between allegory and realism rather than a complete break between them. Old view, the British of new drama. Uh, the 16th century marked the beginning of new drama. Drama moved away from allegory and morality plays. Playwrights began to show real human characters and every emotion. He linked this change to Renaissance humanism, which valued uh, individual experience and reason. Shakespeare and his contemporaries represent a com- complete break from medieval drama. Key idea. Drama evolved from symbolic, allegorical to realistic, mimetic. The old model of drama history. According to generation of critics, medieval drama based on allegory, moral, religious and lesson. Renaissance drama based on mimesis, imaginative immersion of life. This model presents a clean historical divide. Example: every man pre- personified virtues like God deeds. Hamlet, complex human psychological mimesis. Challengers challenge to the old story, the persistence of allegories. Brown argues that allegory did not disappear after the medieval period. Instead, it continued inside the supposedly realistic Renaissance and later drama. A play from Shakespeare to Wagner still use symbolic and moral patterns. The shift was not from allegory to realism, but a blend of both. Summary: repents reopens drama history, showing continuity where old critics saw rupture, rewriting the history of drama. Old view. Drama evolved allegory and religion. Clear historical change, new drama, new view, allegory never truly died. Uh, Renaissance and modern play still carry symbolic meanings beneath religion. Example Shakespeare, measure for misere, or operas mix moral allegory with life-like characters. Core idea: instead of progress dramas, history is a continuing dialogue between allegory and mimesis. Conclusion: revising the history of drama help us see that European theatre did not simply move from allegory to realism, but combined both across time, as argues through review. Right, like Shakespeare continues to use moral and symbolic meaning even within realistic forms. This view relieves that drama evolution is not a break but a living blend of art, ethic, and imagination, where allegory and mimesis exist together to express human truth. Learning outcome explain how the idea of new drama developed in the 16th century. Identity difference between allegory and mimesis. Understand how challenge new beginning theory. Discuss how allegory continue to shape drama from Shakespeare to Wagner. Perspective appreciate that literary history evolves through dialogue, not simple replacement. My reference is, and thank you. Any question?
So my question is, what is the main tension between view of the development of drama?
Drama is mimesis, break of allegory brown. However, thinking alongside religion shaping drama into the 19th century. Next.
My question is, give an example of a playwright where allegory and mimesis coexist.
Play is example. However, human motivation, moral, and symbolic similarly integrate allegorical idea and other realistic drama. Thank you from my side.
Good afternoon, everybody. Myself, MULRAJSINH, and today my presentation topic is the Good afternoon, everybody. Today, my presentation topic is the battle over the dictionary, Coleridge versus Wordsworth on poetic diction. This my academic details. This is a table of content. Uh, Research question of this presentation is how did the core philosophical disagreement between William Wordsworth and Samuel Tyler Coleridge, especially on nature of the poetic diction as either natural speech or a transfigured speech, reframe the literary landscape, and whose critical or practical legacy proved more influential in the long term. Hypothesis of this presentation is Coleridge's critic of Wordsworth preface to lyrical ballad was a single most influential source for subsequent critical discourse on poetic theory, thereby winning the critical battle. However, Wordsworth's practical commitment to simple, authentic voice fundamentally, permanently altered the sound of English verse, thus winning the practical battle and paving the way for modern poetry. Introduction. The presentation explores the philosophical clash between William Wordsworth and Samuel Tyler Coleridge over poetic diction, famously called the Battle over the Dictionary. The 1798 lyrical ballad revolutionized literary history by rejecting neoclassical rigidity, though united by shared ideals. The poetic diverged sharply. Wordsworth denounced the guidance and inane phraseology of 18th century verse, advocating natural, truthful language akin to prose, while Coleridge defended poetry's need for imaginative and elevated diction shaped by its metrical art. Critically, Coleridge triumphed as his theory became the foundational to literary criticism. Practically, Wordsworth prevailed by transforming the very sound of English poetry. The battle over the dictionary, William Wordsworth, language of common life, and Samuel Tyler Coleridge, elevated and selected language. Significance of this, the single most influential source of the critical topic, reframing the literary landscape. The anonymous 1798 publication of lyrical ballads mark a turning point in literary history, challenging neoclassical convention through a bold poetic experiment. Though Wordsworth and Coleridge shared common ideals, their partnership was marked by the creative tension that led them divergent poetic critical paths. Wordsworth sought to transform the ordinary into extraordinary, while Coleridge aimed to humanize the supernatural, making the visionary emotionally and psychological real. Together, they reshape the scope and language of poetry, expanding its imaginative horizons. The language of truth versus language of imagination. Wordsworth rejects the artificial diction poetry and give more importance to the natural speech and emotion and simplicity, while Coleridge agrees but uh, limits poetry and give more importance to transfigure speech and imagination and artistry. Reforming the language of poetry, Wordsworth attack on the artificial diction, the enemy, the stilt, artificial and overly elaborate language of 18th century verse, characterized by a latinate word, flowery epithets, and unnecessary circumlocution. Wordsworth sought a radical reform intending eliminate the guidance and inane phraseology of many modern writers. His goal was authenticity, replacing the artifice with sincere, simple voice that was closer to nature. Wordsworth's core claim: poetry is prose. First, that the language of the prose may be well adapted to poetry. Second, the assertion that there neither is nor can be any essential difference between the language of good prose and metrical composition. He made this statement primarily to counter the possibility that his poems will be called prosaic by asserting a principle that he considered it truism. Wordsworth poetic philosophy core tenets. There are three core tenets. First is low rustic life. Second is language and emotion, and third is poetic role. Poet's role. Central outcome: a poetic of sincerity and universal human truth. Coleridge counters attack and intent to refute. Coleridge believed that the first is a deliberate flaws justified. Certain flaw in the poems might not have been taken seriously, but for Wordsworth, announcement that they were deliberate. But his goal is he found it necessary to remove the obstacle created by Wordsworth critical theory and was out to refute rather than to clarify Wordsworth's argument. Uh, Coleridge, transformative rhetoric. Coleridge, powerful rhetoric was so effective that it did not merely refute the preface but recreate it from the subsequent readers. Coleridge rhetoric refuting World's preface. First is obstacle. Wordsworth deliberate flow and critical theory justification. But Coleridge goal is refute. Coleridge rhetoric so flow as accidental aim to refute, not clarify. Uh, its outcome is preface recreated for the readers. Coleridge's powerful argument reshaped the understanding. The philosophical objection. Coleridge, a critic of the Wordsworth language conflict. A language of authentic emotion must be sincere from rustic life, and its fatal conflation. Language of the poetry as an art form. Superior selection arrangement and arrogant and words heightened by meter. Coleridge argument meter demands elevated language. Evidence in the ballad. Case study first. The Wordsworthian voice. Example: display a brief concept from simple Wordsworth poem, The Idiot Boy, VR7, from our lyrical ballad original text. Analyze not the reliance on the basic monosyllabic words and simple conversational sentence structure. This fulfillment of the theory demonstrates the plainer and more empathic language he sought. Case study 2. The Coleridge voice. Example: display a brief excerpt from the rhyme of the ancient mariner. Analyze the point out archaic language, intense alliteration, and the highly conscious rhythm meter. This language is clearly heightened and elevated, supporting the Coleridge argument that highest form of poetry requires a vocabulary distinct from prose. Learning outcomes. Discern and contrast between Wordsworth's natural speech and Coleridge's transfigured speech. Comprehended Wordsworth's vision of the poetry as a purific prose born rustic simplicity. Unravel Coleridge's imaginative critique that re-envisioned the preface to lyrical ballads. Reflect on their enduring legacy, Coleridge's critical triumph, and Wordsworth's poetic transformation of English verse. Conclusion: who won the battle? Critically, Coleridge won. His critique remains the single most influential source of the critical topic. Practically, Wordsworth won. His commitment to the authentic, simple voice permanently changed the sound of the English poetry, paving the way for the modern verse. Synthesis of this: the enduring legacy is that the poetry must use authentic, real language of man, but that the language must intensely selected, ordered, and elevated by the poet, unique artistic skills and imagination. This is work citation. Now, questions are welcome.
My question is, what was the central claim made by Wordsworth concerning the language of poetry?
Wordsworth's core claim was that poetry is essential prose, especially the language of a man speaking to men. He sought out to reform a poetry to advocating for simple and authentic language used by ordinary people. Next.
So question is, how did Coleridge win the critical battle despite Wordsworth's practical success?
Coleridge won the critical battle because he critiqued Wordsworth's preface to Lyrical Ballad become a single most influential source of critical topic, shaping the subsequent discussion on poetic theory and imagination and language. Thank you. This is from my side.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, myself Radhika Mehta, and today I will represent this topic, the impact of nature in romantic poetry. Nature as a spiritual, emotional, and philosophical force. So now let's get started. These are my academic and presentation details, table of content. And now let's move on the research question and hypothesis. The research question is, to what extent did the romantic poets, as we know that Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley and Keats, utilize nature as a spiritual, emotional and moral agent rather than simply a descriptive backdrop? So the hypothesis is the treatment of nature in romantic poetry transcends mere aesthetic descriptions, serving primarily as a catalyst for spiritual awakening and the articulation of the sublime, thereby reinforcing the unity between the human mind and the external world. So now let's move on the introduction. Defining the role of nature, late 18th and early 19th century, a reaction to enlightenment, centrality of emotions, nature as anti-industrial. So, in an introduction, I want to say something. Romanticism arose as a reaction against enlightenment rationalisms, and it valued to imaginations, emotions, feelings, and nature's purity as an escape from industrializations and corruption of modern life. So the theme one is spiritual and pantheistic force. The pantheism, the organic universe, Wordsworth visions. As we know that the Romanticisms viewed nature as a divine and alive form of pantheisms, and Wordsworth saw that it's as a living presence guiding moral and emotions growth, feelings growth, and connection the human soul with the universe. Now let's move on the theme 2, the sublime and emotions. Nature's dual power, beauty and boundlessness. The sublime, a key romantic aesthetic concept referring to the experience of awe, terror and intense emotional response when faced with vast or powerful natural phenomena. example like mountains, storms, and oceans. So, in Shelley's revolutionary force, in Ode to the Vast Wind, nature is a destructive and regenerative power, a mirror for political and artistic revolution. It is both beautiful and formidable. So, in a Coleridge moral power, in the rhyme of the ancient mariner, the chaos of the sea and the spiritual consequences of violating nature, like killing the albatross, demonstrate nature's moral authority. So in this particular slide, I will edit something to the sublime and emotions is nature's vastness evoke away and terror, and Shelley's ode to the west wind shows the nature's power for renewal, while Coleridge, the rhyme of the ancient mariner, teaches moral respect for the natures. In a theme number 2, refuge, solace, and memory. Escape from the city, nature serves as a heaven and refuge from the artificiality and corruption of society and urban lives. So, in the Wordsworth Tinton Abbey, this poem emphasizes that nature's value lies not only in the present moment but in the inward eyes, the stored memory of natural beauty that provides comfort and healing during periods of despair or solitude. So, in the emotions recaptured, poetry is often viewed as emotions recollected the technicality, where the original sensory experience in nature is later transformed into artistic creation. So we can find out something in the nature offer romantic poets comfort and healing. So in this line, the Tainton Abbey, Wordsworth show how memories of nature brings peace, helping the mind, emotions, and find solace and inspirations. Now let's move on the topic critical context, materiality versus idealisms. So in the materialities of nature, nature is a physical and entity, while much of romantic criticism focuses on the spiritual side of nature. Crucial elements is the descriptions of its material reality, the specific details for flora, fauna, and landscape. So, Keats' sensual focus. John Keats often celebrates the fleeting sensory beauty of the natural worlds, as we know that smell, touch, and taste, anchoring the spiritual concepts in concrete physical experience. So, ideology and the natural, critics like Orlemans argues that the romantic idealization of nature often overlook the socio-economic reality. So in this explanation, we can find out critic like Orlemans argued that the nature in romantic poetry is both material and spiritual. So the Keats celebrates its sensual reality, reminding us that romantic idealism often coexists with the real physical and experience. So now let's move on the conclusion. Nature's enduring legacy, synthesis of findings. So the answer to a research question, romantic poets utilize the nature as a multi-layered agents. The next one is spiritual sources, and then emotional mirror, moral guide, and last one is enduring impacts. So in this slide, I want to say something to conclude. In a conclusion, nature in romantic poetry serves as a spiritual teachers, emotional mirror, and moral guide. This view laid the foundation for modern ecological awareness and environmental thought. The learning outcomes, what I can learn from these presentations. So differentiate between the neoclassical and romantics view of nature as mechanicals versus organic, and identify the core philosophical concepts, specifically pantheisms and the sublime as they relate to natural imagery in poetry. So analyze the unique contributions of key poets. As we know that Wordsworth's focus on memory and healing versus Shelley's focus on deconstruction and renewal. So the understanding how the nature function as a moral and ideological mirror for the human conditions. So in this learning outcomes, we learn to distinguish between neoclassical and romantics ideas of nature, and we also learn from that the sublime and the unique roles of poets like Wordsworth, Shelley, and Keats. So these are the references, and thank you. Now it's your turn for asking a question.
My question is, how did romantic poet view nature differently from the neoclassical poets?
Yeah. So your answer is romantic poets. How to nature as a living and spiritual force that connects deeply with human feelings, emotions, and imagination of all about the nature. And unlike a neoclassical poets who view it as a mechanical and orderly systems. Next.
My question is, what role does nature play in Wordsworth poetry?
Okay, so your answer is in Wordsworth work we can find out some some evolutions and some evolution and introduction of the feelings, emotions, and acts as a moral guide and sources of healing, nourishing the human soul, and offering solace through memory and reflections. It's all about the feelings, emotions, and a human's perspectives. So thank you so much. This is from my side.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Priya Rathod, and today I am going to discuss about the Victorian crisis of faith and doubt, Tennyson and Arnold. These are my academic details and presentation details. This is table of contents. So my research question is, how do Alfred Lord Tennyson and Matthew Arnold's poetic responses to the Victorian crisis of faith reflect different strategies for reconciling religious doubt with the intellectual and scientific developments of their age? Hypothesis: Tennyson and Arnold transform the Victorian crisis of faith into a creative and philosophical exploration of doubt. Tennyson Tennyson seeking reconciliation through intuitive, evolving faith grounded in hope, while Arnold responds with cultural melancholy and moral humanism, demonstrating that doubt itself become an essential foundation for modern spiritual and poetic expression. So let's begin with the introduction. The Victorian age experienced a major challenge to traditional religious belief, particularly Anglicanism, as rapid scientific, intellectual, and social changes reshaped society. Industrialization and urbanization disrupted stable communities and weakened the foundations of unquestioning faith. Discoveries in geology and Darwin's Origin of Species contradicted biblical accounts of creation and divine design, leading many to question humanity's spiritual purpose. At the same time, biblical scholarship, especially the higher criticism, treated scripture as a human historical document rather than a divine revelation, undermining its authority and absolute truth. This tension between inherited faith and modern rationalism produced widespread moral and spiritual anxiety. Writers like Tennyson and Arnold reflect this struggle in their works, transforming a Victorian crisis of belief into a profound exploration of doubt, faith, and the search for meaning in uncertain world. This picture shows us different views of Tennyson and Arnold's about faith and doubt. Tennyson's struggle and faith in the face of cosmic indifference. Tennyson struggles in his works in memoriam is deeply personal, rooted in his grief for Arthur Hallam, which was his one of the his friend, but it mirrors the age's turmoil. He does not deny science. He integrates its brutal facts like nature's indifference into a quest for meaning. The poem's resolution is a deliberate act of will, choosing faith not through logic but through emotional necessity and profoundly relatable choice, even in modern secular crisis. Tennyson's higher hope and the role of intuition. Tennyson provides a model for navigating uncertainty rather than outright rejecting the raw scientific worldview. He uses his poetic voice to articulate a faith that accommodates doubt. The larger hope is not a doctrinal affirmation, it's a profound yearning for purpose that guides his personal journey through grief. This shift from external proof to intuitive conviction is crucial. Lasting elements of his literary legacy. Arnold's response, melancholy and cultural authority. Arnold's poetry is stripped with a sense of irreversible loss, where Tennyson strives for hope and Arnold acknowledges the melancholy, long withdrawing roar of certainty. For him, the answer is not a new religion, but a redirection of spiritual energy into culture itself. He showed the need for poetry and human letters to be a new source of moral authority, a struggle for meaning that still defines the role of humanities today. Dover Beach, Love as a Final Refuge. Dover Beach is a powerful depiction of a world stripped of its illusion. The only certainty left is his human bond, a fragile candle in a universal darkness. The speaker's desperate call to truth is the agnostic imagination's last stands again nihilism. This turn towards intimate personal connection as the ultimate source of value speaks directly to our contemporary focus and individual experience and relationship based on ethics.
Tennyson's narrative and Arnold's lyrical form. The way these both poets write is as important as what they say. Tennyson's expensive elegy gives him a room to debate and build a new personal theology. Arnold's concentrated lyric offers an immediate emotional reaction to spiritual vacuum. The contrast underscores a fundamental divergence in response. One seeking to rebuild a greater narrative, the other expecting a fragmented reality with redesigned eloquence. This image also shows us contrasting responses of Arnold and Tennyson about their different works. Uh, the agnostic imagination in Victorian poetry. The agnostic imagination is not just about simply giving up on God. It's a commitment to intellectual honesty. Tennyson elevates a doubt to a virtue, a path to true belief. Arnold focuses on the resulting cultural vacuum. Both highlight the modern dilemma of living meaningfully without universal established truth. Their poetry teaches us that grappling with uncertainty is perhaps more spiritually profound than resting in comfortable, unexamined belief. Lessons for today: resilience in uncertainty. The Victorian crisis of faith is not just a historical, it's a template for navigating contemporary anxieties. Their struggles to maintain meaning when institutions fail and science reshapes reality in our own. Tennyson and Arnold teaches us the resilience lies in honest doubt and in choosing love and culture as the new anchors. Their poetry is the enduring testament to the human need for purpose, even when certainty has retreated. To conclude, we can say that Tennyson and Arnold offer two distinct yet complementary responses to their age's spiritual earthquake. Tennyson strives to build a bridge between science and soul, while Arnold maps the resulting emptiness and urges us toward a human solidarity. They both prove that literature is the ultimate testing ground for philosophical truth, capable of transforming cultural trauma into enduring meaningful art. These are my outcomes which I have learned from this presentation. I understood how Tennyson and Arnold responded differently to this crisis. Tennyson exploring intuitive faith and spiritual consolation, while Arnold emphasized moral humanism and rational reflection on life's uncertainty. These are my references. These are key points throughout the presentation. And thank you. If anyone has a question, they are free to ask.
So, my question is to you: in what ways does the Victorian crisis of faith parallel current cultural debates over the role of science and objective truth?
So the Victorian crisis of faith parallels today's debates as both challenge established religion and science, creating a public anxiety and distrust. In both cases, people navigate uncertainty by balancing evidence with personal, ethical, as well as emotional judgment, seeking meaning beyond the objective facts. Any other question?
Can we see Tennyson's larger hope as a precursor to modern humanism?
Yes, Tennyson's larger hope can be seen as a precursor to modern humanism because it emphasizes ethical action, spiritual aspirations, and the search for meaning through human experience, rather than relying on institutional religion, aligning with the humanist focus on reason, empathy, or personal growth in a secular or uncertain world. Thank you so much. This is from my side.
Hello everyone, myself Nidhi Pandya. Good afternoon to all. Today's my presentation topic is the role of the critic Matthew Arnold and the ethics of disinterested judgment in the digital age. So these are my academic details, presentation details, and these are the table of contents. Here is my research question. In what specific ways can Matthew Arnold's demand for the critic's disinterested judgment, the pursuit of the real estimate over the subjective personal estimate, be practically applied as a sustained ethical framework and a cultural critique to contract the self reinforcing echo chambers and the algorithmic bias prevalent in contemporary digital media? Now, hypothesis. Arnold's concept is of the disinterestedness understood as an active intellectual labor towards the study of the perfection, provides a robust and the necessary ethical standard that, when the self-critically applied, functions as a powerful mode of a resistance against the digital partisanship and the monetization of the subjectivity and the ideological filtering imposed by the media algorithms. Here is the introduction that Arnold argued that the primary function of the criticism is to maintain a current of true and the fresh ideas within a society overwhelmed by the political and the religious fervor, emphasizing that the creative power of the 19th century was being stifled by an inadequate intellectual climate. For him, the critic's role was preparatory, serving as a conduit through the which future creative epochs could emerge. These emphasize on the generation and the circulation of the ideas, position criticism not merely as a moral or aesthetic enterprise, but as an essential intellectual force shaping the cultural consciousness of an age. Now, defining the disinterestedness, the idea, the core concept that the disinterestedness is not being apathetic or the unconcerned. Arnold defined it as a deep ethical rigor. Now, it requires the critic to actively check their own inherent bias as the self-interest to find the pure truth. The critic must intentionally keep aloof from the immediate political figures of the practical views of things. Arnold made the pursuit of the culture perfection with the engagement of the best that is known as the thought in the world, a genuine moral and the intellectual mission. The here given article shows that this study draws towards the study of perfection, now elevates the critical task and demanding that the loyalty to be truth, not current traits. Now, Arnold's method to see the object itself, to Arnold's famous goal to see the object as itself is really is a call for intellectual humanity. Now it demands and depends upon the word that we actively strips away our prejudices, personal likes and dislikes, and inherited from the doctrines. Now these and those self-disciplined act of the critical detachment ensures that our evaluation of the standards and liking and disliking are not that much of that level. Now the failure to achieve this, says Arnold, leads to arbitrary and mistaken the judgments. True criticism thus circulates ideas based upon the objective worth, not the transitional opinions. Now the danger of the personal estimate, that the personal estimate is the fundamental enemy of the disinterestedness. When simple affection or a political convention starts to control our judgment, we stop being impartial critic and become mere partisans. Now Arnold identified this as a systematic failing that prevents us making the true decision or the about the truth of a particular thing. Now it progresses and lead to a decline of the critical spirit. And as a Dick stands rise, that his warning against the historical estimate also reminds us that the works of immediate popularity or fleeting relevance does not automatically qualify it. Now this is the lasting real estimate. Now the Arnold is a critic of the ideology. Arnold acted a powerful cultural reformer by critiquing the narrow self-interested belief of the Victorian society. What he categorized as the barbarians, Philistines, and the populace, that his entire project was about the liberating the mind and from having to choose a side. This free play of the mind is the ethical role which play in the disinterestedness. It is an essential ability to assess and challenge the ideas without being rigidly confined by one's own ingrained partisans or the class positions. Now these grounds are which political leaders proceeded, making his work a profound act of resistance against the dogmatism. Now a digital age of the challenge, that the partisanship and the fragmentation. The fragmentation of the authority online serving undermines Arnold's vision for a shared culture, that the critical engagement is now often replaced by the commercial metrics and like clicks, shares, and liking and disliking, making the personal estimate go away from the real estimate, financially rewarding and the persuasive. Now the modern critic often functions as the content consumer or the content creator, driven by the speed and the need of the sell literature rather than the objectively evaluating it. And for one thing that the Murray has also mentioned, that this fractures the current of ideas and the leads to isolate the echo chambers driven by the immediate commercials success rather than the literary quality. Now the algorithm filters and the loss of the objectivity. Digital in disinterestedness is a fundamentally a technological challenge. Algorithm acts as a non-human critics, constantly reinforcing our existing biases and effectively blocking the intellectual our discovery. Now this is a personal estimate by click, and the mentally Arnold warned against only amplifying the globally. The critic's ethical task now requires a cultural critique that analyze the platforms underlying ideologies and the frameworks. The modern critic as a culture authority. Now the modern critic must regain the culture authority by modeling Arnold's detachment and prioritizing the real estimate, not the personal estimate. A work's lasting worth over its fleeting online impact. Their main role is now that of a public educator who must promote reason and justice by constantly circulating new and striking ideas. But everyone is again only following the trends, and authority should be earned through the consistent fidelity to the Arnold's high standards, urging readers to recuperate the Arnold self-critically. Now the ethical improvement, the study of the perfection. Arnold's critic project is ultimately a profound moral vision driven by the messianic desire for collective cultural improvement. The study of the perfection, as a article describes it, that the disinterestedness simply provides the necessary method. By seeing clearly, we can identify the flaws and the progress toward the harmonious perfection. It insist on the actively surpassing the prejudice and the passion on particular subject. Now the application of the touchstone method and the standard, that the Arnold's touchstone method is a practically powerful tool for achieving the disinterestedness. It involves using the memorable lines and the expression of the great measures or the masters. Now as the objective measuring sticks, this technique forces the critic to resist the bias of novelty and the damaging the relativism, which is our pervasive online. It really strength lies in the intellectual discipline. It requires compelling us to search for the real estimate over our transientness. Now the subjective taste is also. Now, by measuring it, the true culture value is measured by only the universality and the morality into that particular work. Now, the enduring relevance of the Arnold's ethics, that Arnold's ethics demand to avoid becoming a clique follower, is crucial for combating dirigent tribalism today. Disinterestedness is a function as a powerful mode of resistance. Now, John said that against the commercial and the highly partisan pressures of the modern media, by the insisting on the real estimate, Arnold provides a clear antidote to the shallow, click driven nature of the online content, or what Murray refers to as the digital transformation of the print culture processes. His framework restores intellectual rigor to the culture conversation, rejecting the personal or the political loyalty. The ultimate goal is to secure the recognition for the great work for the wider world. Now, not just a small and devoted fan group. So, my conclusion here is the recorrupting the Arnold's critical project, that the Arnold provides a necessary ethical improvement, the ethical pursuit of the truth over the self-interest. The digital age, characterized by the algorithm bias and the hyper partisanship, desperately needs Arnold's call for a free play of the mind. The modern critic's role is to act as a counter force, forcing critically, literally, in a culture that rewards emotional reaction over reason analysis. The essential lesson is that uninterestedness is not disinterestedness, and ignoring biases is not transcendenting them, but Arnold thus provides the intellectual equipment needed to undertake a cultural critique of the digital sphere itself. Now, my hypothesis is justify here that the Arnold's warning against the personal estimate anticipate the today crisis of the subjectivity, as the Dickstein observe its decay into the subjective online reviews, that the signal of the decline of the critical spirit. Goodhart positions Arnold as a critic of ideology, offering a framework to challenge foundational of the beliefs and a model vital for the confronting the digital mediums inherent ideologies biases. Disinterestedness, far from being passive, and the uninterestedness represent an active self-critical label, providing the only effective defense against the emotional and the partisan appeals to engagement-driven culture. Ultimately, the Arnold's ethical drive towards the study of the perfection elevates that the criticism into an act of culture resistance, demanding a shared real estimate in a place of a fragment and monetized opinion. So these are the key points throughout my presentation: disinterestedness as an ethical imperative, and the critical as an intellectual force, danger of the personal estimate, and the critique of the ideology, digital age challenges, and the touchstone method, modern application within the study perfection, and the role of a modern critic. These are my learning outcomes as I have learned from the Matthew Arnold. Just do not give only the personal estimate, but within the real estimate, critics should just judge the work impartially, avoiding the personal bias, and give the everyone what is moral and universally true, and every critic should get this idea within this. So these are my references from which I have taken my presentation details. Thank you, everyone. If anyone have now questions, please shoot out the question.
So my question is, how can Arnold's principles help us to maintain cultural standards in an age of viral trends?
So now Arnold's principles help us maintain culture standards as a viral, that he says just do not be this our culture needs a lasting value, and that is why we should not follow the transient virals and everything. By applying the disinterestedness and the morality and the real estimate and the touchstone method, we can value our culture, and our things will be kept very well, and the truth will remain very much into the any particular work or into any kind of situation or in kind of society. So the priority must be to the disinterestedness. This will be my answer.
Question is to you. Could Arnold's study of perfection be applied to global ethics beyond literature?
Yes, Arnold's studies are perfect. Study of perfection can be applied to the globally ethics beyond our literature, as if we include and represent the reason and the morality and the universality by striving the intellectual and ethical rigors, societies and the science and any particular policy and media can be valued, and the disinterested net may be ensures us that the decisions we make upon that will be long term and for the well-being of the society, and will give us the main idea about what society will be like and what the real truth behind every single situation about our particular uh, particular advantages or the society and everything. Thank you so much, everyone. This is from my side.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Grishma Raval, and today I will be presenting on the topic The Artist and the Moralist, contrasting visions of literature in Edgar Allan Poe and Lionel Trilling as a part of the unit regarding the Romantics and Victorians. These are my academic and presentation details, table of contents, and my research question is focusing on in what ways does the evaluation from Poe to Trilling reflects a broader cultural and intellectual shift in American thought regarding the relationship between beauty, art, and morality. So the hypothesis is that the evolution from Poe to Trilling is reflecting a shift in American literary thought where art is valued solely for beauty and emotional effect to integrate moral and psychological insight, whereas here Poe is emphasizing an aesthetic unity and emotional resonance, while the Victorian critics like Arnold and Ruskin are introducing ethical considerations on this, and they are bridging the gap to Trilling. And Trilling argues that literature engages with moral complexities and showing that aesthetic pleasure is most meaningful when it is combined with ethical reflection. So, this shift is marking a redefinition of literary value from beauty alone to the moral and psychological significance of art. So now, beginning in the introduction, we see a shift from beauty to morality, where I have examined the trajectory which has happened from Poe to Trilling, demonstrating how American literary thought has evolved from an emphasis on aesthetic purity to a nuanced understanding of literature as a moral and imaginative enterprise. And this intermediary influence of Victorian critics such as Matthew Arnold, John Ruskin, and Henry James highlights the gradual integration of how ethical considerations are shifted to literary evaluation, bridging the gap between aestheticism and moral criticism. So, this evaluation of American literary criticism, which happened in the early 19th century to the mid 20th century, is reflecting a shift from understanding of literature's purpose, moving a focus from aesthetic beauty to an engagement with moral and psychological complexity. So now moving to Edgar Allan Poe, who was a romantic aesthete, and he was also a part of dark romanticism movement during the between the Victorian and the Romantic era. And we can say that he was a central figure in American Romanticism, and he is known for his poetry, short stories, and critical essays. And his key works include The Raven and the Philosophy of Composition, where we can see the highlights of dark romanticism in this work. and he argued that the primary aim of poetry is beauty, and he is stating that the sole legitimate province of the poem is beauty, and he emphasized the importance of emotional unity and the creation of a singular effect in poetry. So this emphasis he put on beauty and emotional unity, it laid the groundwork for the aesthetic movement which happened in America and its literature, and also influenced the generations of writers and critics after that. So then if we see the Victorian intermediaries which are bridging aesthetic and moral thought from both of these critiques concepts, then Matthew Arnold viewed poetry as a criticism of life, and he is arguing that literature is serving to provide moral and cultural guidance, whereas the modern painters like John Ruskin have posited that beauty in art is intrinsically linked to truth and morality, and he is suggesting that artists should depict nature faithfully to convey moral lessons. And Henry James, he believed that the novel is a moral form, and the novel itself is capable of exploring the complexities of human experience and ethical dilemmas. And these critiques, they bridge the gap between Poe's aestheticism and Trilling's moral criticism by integrating the ethical considerations into appreciation of art, and thereby influencing the trajectory of the American literary criticism. So now coming to Lionel Trilling, who is considered as the modern moral critic. So he was a prominent American literary critic and also an essayist, and also known for his exploration of the moral and psychological dimensions of literature. We can also see many similarities between Trilling, Eliot, and Arnold as well. So the key works like the liberal imagination and the opposing self are of Trilling, and where he is emphasizing the importance of literature in exploring the complexities of human nature and moral ambiguity. And he believed that art should engage with the moral dilemmas of society and reflect the intricacies of the human experience, which, according to him, it is somewhat failing to do so. So no, he's not telling that we should not just follow art or ignore art, but he is telling that we should maintain a proper balance between the aesthetic value of art as well and its moral complexities as well. So his work marked a shift in American literary criticism, focusing on the moral and psychological aspects of literature, and he also influenced subsequent generations of critics and writers later on. So if we look into the comparative analysis, then how the shift happened from the aesthetic purity to moral complexity. So I have divided into two parts, where in the first part I am highlighting the focus, the purpose, and the morality between the both, and how their comparative insight has been shown. So the primary focus Edgar Allan Poe talks about is about the aesthetic beauty and emotional unity and the unity of effect, whereas Trilling is talking about the moral and the psychological complexity, which shows ethical reflection. So comparatively, Poe is emphasizing on emotional and formal perfection, whereas Trilling is emphasizing on moral and psychological complexity. So the purpose of both of them writing their work, where Poe is stating that art is autonomous and the value lies in beauty and emotional effect, whereas Trilling says that literature should engage with the society, morality, and also with the human psyche. So this shows that how the shift from romantic aestheticism to moral criticism is being highlighted over the decades, and their approach to morality, where Poe is separating from moral and ethical concerns, whereas Trilling is inherently involving into the ethical engagement. And this evaluation we can see happened from art for art's sake to literature as a moral exploration. So the second part includes the methodology, the style, and their influence. And the methodology which Edgar Allan Poe is using is analytical, formalist, and also he is focusing on the structure, rhythm, and effect, whereas Trilling is writing in a critical essay style, and he is blending literary analysis with cultural, social, and ethical commentary. So comparative insight we gain that Poe is examining form and effect, whereas Trilling is examining form in relation with ethics and human experience. So the legacy where Poe has pioneered the American aestheticism, which influenced the Romantic and Symbolist writers, and Trilling has influenced 20th century literary criticism, liberal humanism, and also moral literary evaluation. So this shows how intellectual and critical evaluation in American literary thought over a century has happened. So we can see all of these works and their methodology, style, their contribution to literature, how they are writing, their influence in the works by Poe, like the Raven, the philosophy of composition, the poetic principle, by Trilling, the liberal imagination and the opposing self. And this illustrates how the contrast between aesthetic intensity and moral and psychological exploration is being highlighted. So to conclude, I can say that how the modern moral beauty of art is relevant and how the shift happened. So from Poe's aestheticism to Trilling's moral criticism, a shift is being seen in American literary criticism, where art is valued for its beauty to appreciate art for its moral and psychological depth. So this trajectory is underscoring the idea that how the highest form of art is not only beautiful but also can be morally insightful, and which also can reflect the complexities of the human experiences. And this progression from Poe to Trilling is reflecting a maturation in the American criticism, which forms an emphasis on aesthetic purity to a focus on moral complexity, which is facilitated by the intermediary role of the Victorian critics. So if justification of research question and hypothesis is there, then the evaluation which we see from both of these writers, and which reflects the broader cultural and intellectual shifts in the American thought. And from this we can see the relationship of beauty and art and morality as well, where Poe is emphasizing art for its aesthetic unity and emotional effect, valuing beauty as the primary aim of literature, whereas we can also see a moral or societal considerations largely secondary in his works, which are primary in Trilling's works. So Victorian critics like Matthew Arnold and John Ruskin have introduced ethical and social dimensions to literary evaluation, which bridges the Poe's romantic focus on emotion with the mid 20th century integration of moral reflection seen in Trilling's works. So Trilling is extending this approach, and he is arguing that literature achieves its deepest significance when we blend aesthetic pleasure with moral and psychological insight, and which shall reflect on human consciousness and ethical complexity. And this trajectory from romantic individualism through Victorian ethical awareness, where we see Trilling's interrogation of psychology and morality, which marks a redefinition of literary value in American thought, shifting from beauty alone to literature's ethical and psychological resonance as well. So it should not be from the outer only, it should reflect on the inside only. So we see this shift after mid 20th century. So the learning outcome which I gained while preparing this presentation was I gained a deeper understanding of how American literary criticism evolved from Poe to Trilling. And also I learned how the shift from romanticism's focus on beauty and emotional unity to mid 20th century emphasis on moral and psychological complexity happened. This enhanced my ability to critically compare different literary philosophies across periods and also the writers and their works. And I also understood the role of intermediary Victorian critics like Arnold, Ruskin, and James, who bridged these aesthetic and ethical concerns. And I also appreciated how literature is functioning as both an aesthetic delight as well as a reflection of ethical and social issue. And I also developed a nuanced perspective on the interplay between aesthetic form, emotional effect, and moral engagement in literature, which strengthened my skills in comparative analysis and also the scholarly interpretation of the writers. These are my references. Thank you. If anyone has any query, you can ask.
So, Grishma, my question to you is how do you think Poe's idea of aesthetic beauty would be received in today's literary criticism landscape?
So, if Poe would think in today's literary criticism landscape regarding the aesthetic beauty, then he might focus on the aesthetic delight of any play, and any work, any poem, or any movie, and he would focus on the form, the structure, the tonality, the theme. Also, from his perspective, he will reflect somewhat on the emotional insight, but not from the moral perspective, because that is secondary to him. So his key focus would be on the aesthetic focus, on form, on meter, on the tone, and how beautifully the work has been done. So that is my answer. Anyone else has question?
So my question is how can these contrasting views of these two be applied to the analysis of modern popular culture such as film or TV shows?
So if I contrast Poe's and Trilling's views on modern popular TV or films or genre, so Poe would definitely, like I mentioned in my previous answer as well, go for the aesthetic delight first. So if he is what I can say, contemplating or comparing, or is analyzing any work today, then he will, if for example a thriller movie is being shown, then he will see the interplay between the dialogues, the characters, emotional depth, and also he will see the focus on the landscape, and he would rather see it in a formalist manner, and whereas Trilling would see it in a moral and ethical manner. And because he would also disagree with Poe's analysis, because he understood that today's society is functioning on the basis of gender, class, race, and certain other binaries, which is not correct, but yeah, that is what the modern and contemporary society is still struggling with. So he would highlight that complexities and how that work is critiquing on today's world, and he would give his interpretive analysis based upon that. So thank you, that is it from my side.
Today I will giving to presentation on from silent to a spectacle to literary invention of the media woman, gender gauge and authorship from Chaucer to the Victorian press. Here is my academic details and presentation details. Here is the table of content. From you thoroughly know how my presentation is going on. My research question and hypothesis. My research question is that how did English literature from Chaucer to the Victorian era constructs, control, and circulate the image of woman, transforming her from a speaking subject into a visible spectacle? And how does this literary genealogy anticipates the mechanism of modern media representation? Here is my hypothesis. English literature from the medieval to a Victorian age systematically shaped the cultural grammar of the media woman by transforming female expression into spectacles, moralizing visibility and commodifying reputations, thereby creating narrative structures that persist in modern media gender gaze. That is, my hypothesis is thoroughly connected with my presentation details. Introduction. Before the camera, when literature invented the grace. Centuries before the camera, literature taught the world how to look and whom would pay for being looked at. From Chaucer's bold wife of Bath, Shakespeare's silence, Ophelia. From Restoration stage that displayed women like trophies. From Victorian newspapers that sold them as a stories. Each age didn't just write about a woman. It's authored the very idea of a womanhood. Literature created the media gaze long before media exists. It framed woman first as muse, then as moral lessons, and finally as a marketable images. This journey from silence to spectacles show how art, commerce, and gender have always been intertwined. And by tracing that evolution, we can see how centuries of storytelling shape the way women are seen, sold, and sometimes silently today. From voice to spectacles, tracing the literary medium. The question at the heart of this study is how did English literature from Chaucer to the Victorians create and circulate gender media woman? This isn't 5 disconnected periods, it's a one long evolution. Women moved from having authorized speech to becoming framed spectacles. Their reputation turned into a social currency. Literature enforced this through silencing, objectifying, framing, satire, authorships, myths, and press-driven scandals. That is also we seen from the work of that whole period. In short, the literary pages acted as an early media platform, producing, circulating, and managing the public image of women across centuries. The first figure, Chaucer. Before the press, the wife who speak and shock authority. In the 14th century, Chaucer gives us something extraordinary, the wife of Bath's prologue. She speaks at length about her experience and authority, opening with experience through non-authority. She claims knowledge not from men or the church, but from her own life. Think of it as a pre-media broadcast, a woman shaping how she's seen and understood before a press even exists. Later era will strike, contains, and frame such a voice, but here Chaucer shows a woman speaking freely, powerfully, and autonomously. As glimpses of public authority, women would have to fight for across centuries. Here I am also embark on a key quotation from my references that shows that. So with the Chaucer's, we are seeing the beginning of a woman's public voice, a voice that's powerful, performative, and dangerously autonomous, experienced through non-authority. Renaissance. Women on a stage, eyes on them. The Renaissance gaze as a spectacle. During the Renaissance, literature begins to shape women as the object of a male attention, turning them into a public spectacles. Take Ophelia's in Hamlet. Even before her tragic end, her songs, her madness, and the way men around her interpret her feelings transform her into a visible symbol rather than a full character. Every stage direction, every male soliloquy frames her for the audience gaze. Similarly, Milton's Paradise Lost frames Eve not just a person, but as an emblem of a temptation, beauty, and vulnerability. Her words and her placement in the story turn her into a theological image, observed and interpreted through a male lens. What we see in this text is an early model of a female as a spectacle, literature teaching audience to watch women, to read them as a symbol, and to consume their emotions as a public display. It is a pattern that echoes throughout centuries of a literature, culture, and framing. Eve's speech at the fall. Neoclassical pop. Commodity and satire. Beauty as a currency. Pop's proto-tabloid spectacles. Imagine your beauty became a currency. How it is feel when you are sold. Your beauty became a currency. That's exactly what happened to a Belinda's pop rap of the lock. Every curl, every cosmetic, every gesture is on a display, circulating through gossips and elite scrutiny. Pop's mock heroic style treats these tribal rituals almost like a sacred rites, showing how society worships appearances. Satire here is just for a laughs. It models a proto-tabloid world where women's bodies are evaluated, judged, and consumed. That is also being on nowadays. We are judge women by their not a behavior but by their appearances. So yes, we chuckle at Belinda's misadventures, but beneath the humor lies a sharp social lessons. In the society, beauty is currency and security is the price of being seen. Romantic. Authorship and gendered creation. How we see the literature of our romantics. When creation became spectacles, Mary Shelley's challenge to male genius. What if the act of creating life itself was considered a man's privilege, and writing it as a woman made by you a spectacle? In Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, acts of a creation, bringing a life, shaping knowledge are coded as a male genius. Shelley's authorship complicates these. Her positions as a female creator became inherently scrutinized, even transgressive. When Victor marvels at the act of giving life, we see both the awe and anxiety surrounding creations. Showing masculinity as a performative, while Shelley's authorship reads a spectacular. The novel isn't interrogates who is allowed to create, who became spectacle, and how gender meditates authority, a theme that echoes in later media narratives about creators. Victorian. Press, novel, and reputation, gossip, scandal, and consequences. By the Victorian era, reputation was a social currency, and woman wear is not visible collateral. Becky Sharp in Vanity Fair or tease of the Herbalers faced constant scrutiny. Every choice, every misstep circulated in novels and periodicals alike. Society was always watching, always judging, and those judgments could make or ruin a life. Here I am also embark on key quotation from my references that shows that the press and the novel didn't just report scandal. They co-created it. Thackeray and the Hardy shows how women's morality and reputation were commodified, consumed, and debated across the society. Synesthesis, three persistence mechanisms. Mechanisms keep repeating across the century. The common things of the whole centuries. First, editorial silence. Chaucer's swipes of a bath is heard, but only as anecdote. Here, authority muted. Later text eras female speech altogether. Second, framing and gaze. Ophelia, EU narratives turn women into a spectacles, objects for readers, viewers' judgment. They are looked at, not listened to. And the third one is commodification of reputation. In Pope and the Victorian press, beauty, morality, scandal, they became marketable, circulating, and social currency. Summing up, centuries of a gauge who controls visibility, who pays the price. To conclude, long before cameras or social media's literature taught the world how to look, and who pays the price for being looked at. Across century, women moved for speaking freely to being framed as spectacles, their voice meditated, reputation traded, their presence consumed. The three mechanisms. These mechanisms, silence, gaze, commerce, are not a release of the past. They still shape the stories we see, the headlines we read, and the ways public women are scrutinized today. And yet, every era also offers moments of resistance. Women reclining voice, turning spectacles into an agency, challenging the gaze rather than the succumbing to it. And at the conclusion, I'll embark one quotation that shows that because in the end, centuries before the camera, literature didn't just tell us a story. It taught the world how to look and who world paid for being looked at. Here is my justification of research question and hypothesis. My research question is justified by its close periods connecting authorships to spectacles. It frames literature not just art but as the cultural technology or gender representation. It links to current feminist media discourse like Butler's gender trouble and so on. My hypothesis is justified by systematically shaped. You can prove this through textual evolution. Wife of Bath, Ophelia, Belinda, Shelley, teach cultural grammar, consistent literature, semantic systems. Persist in modern media lets you lose with digital parallels like journalism, social media, and celebrity cultures. Supported by a feminist theory like Gilbert and Gubra's The Mad Woman in the Attic and so on others. Here is my literary outcome. My literary outcome is not for me and not it is generated by me, but it for the audience. After the viewing of my presentation, what they can understand that is come from the literary learning outcome. Here is the work cited. Thank you. Now the creative minds are invited to ask me the questions.
So my question to you is that social media lets women shape their image today. Is that real freedom or just the old male gaze in a modern form?
It is the answer is that it is both sides, the reputation and the liberation. Because social media lets women shape their image. Why? while they are posting such a good things on that. I'm also take one example. If from that day there were another level of social media, women writing and they posted, but now it is changed. So Jane Austen, Mary Shelley write Frankenstein. So she use a very good use of her social media, and she shape her images. So now the woman use the social media correctly, so they can use a very good image of that. Another question.
So my question is, did women in these literary periods ever truly control their own image, or were they always performing within a story written by a man?
When we look at that literature, we also saw that Chaucer's both of wives and Bronte's most of heroines are boldly portrayed by the men, not by their own choices. So we can say that if we need a change, so women came front and write stories by on themselves, so they can change that situation. And I am also embark one quotation that a woman never seen as a woman, but they always crafted by a man as the man want. So that is from my side. Thank you.
Hello. Am I audible on YouTube? Okay, so now it's time for the remarks. Okay, so let's start from the first presenter, Vanita. She is not present, but her topic was really good. Evolution of storytelling, manuscript and printing press to the digital internet age. And she connected also very well from the beginning to the current time. Okay. She can also, we can say, learn something, we can say, further from Prakruti ma'am as well regarding the hypertext and all these things. So she can add this point as well, because nowadays you can find it out the hypertext. Okay, so from printing press to the hypertext. So it is a good that if she will work on that, so she can get something more insight in that. Again, good presented. Again, in her presentations, a good question raised by Siddharth N and Grishma, and she also answered well, okay, based on her understanding. So, good presentation. Kruti did also well. Your presentation slides are really good today. Okay, you have added further research scope and discussion and learning outcomes. So I like that. And again, presented well. A good improvement I can see in her presentation. Then Sanjay, again, your topic was really good. That you also explained well. But one thing, just try to maintain eye contact. Otherwise, your presentation was good. In answer, you did. But while explaining, just try to, we can say, do eye contact. Otherwise, overall, it was good. Mansi, good presentation. But you today lost your mark in that, we can say, while answering, you just try to read from the mobile. Okay, so just try to, we can say, give oral answer. Okay, otherwise presentation was good, but today I can find it out that eye contact was missing in your presentation. Then Mittal, your topic is also good. Okay, Elizabethan drama and modern storytelling, lessons from today's media. Okay, so presentation was also good. You have prepared a good slide, but what you have to do that if you have taken Elizabethan drama, so you have referred something from the Elizabethan age. So what about the historical, we can say the history book? Okay, that one history book, W.J. Long or any other history book, you have to cite, because we have referred something from the history. So that thing you have to add in your presentation. And yes, when you talked about that, we can say the adaptation in the modern media. Okay, so just try to give examples, one or two examples if you can add, then it looks good. Sandhya, again, zero eye contact. Okay, and you did the same mistake. Okay, just reading the things. Okay, so don't repeat the things. Hope for the best in the next season. Priyanka, topic was good. Okay. But again, I want to give the same suggestion that if you are talking about the adaptations of Shakespearean drama or other things, then just try to give the name of director and, for example, Vishal Bhardwaj, and you can just give suggestions, or we can say the examples like the Hamlet, or we can say Heather, Omkara. You have mentioned in your answer. But what about the presentation? So when you talked on that idea that how adaptation done, so you have to give examples, one or two examples, so the audience can easily connect your we can say the idea with the example. But I am happy that at least Omkara you referred in your answer. Okay, so that is a good thing. But you can add an example in your slide, and again you can also add history book. Okay, one history book. This is the paper. Here you have history of English literature, and you are talking about the Shakespeare and all these things, dramatists. And all, you have to refer that book. Okay, so add this. Otherwise, presentation was good. Sagar, again, your topic was very good, and you answered also well. So then, Siddhi, in your research question, you have to add question mark. Okay, that thing you have to do. Then again, no, we can say need to read line by line. Okay, me and ma'am both have experience that your classroom presentation was good. You involved very well, okay, in all the activities. But here we can find it out that you are not that much vocal. Okay, so just try to, we can say, explain orally based on your understanding. Okay, you can do it. Fine. And again, find it out that your sources are not arranged in alphabetical orders. So that also you have to do. And same suggestion that you also have to add history book. You just talked about that these poets, no? University wits. So from where you referred? So history book you have to add. Okay, so that things you have to remember. Siddharth ji. Okay, again same mistake. Okay, only reading one by one line. Okay, so don't do the thing. But I am happy that today you have added research question and hypothesis in your presentation, and citations also good. Fine. But thing is that now for your speaking skill you have to improve. Okay, otherwise thing is good. So for from the next presenter for their remarks, now I would like to invite Prakruti ma'am.
Thank you. So I wasn't present throughout the series of presentations which were done. So I'll just share my thoughts about the ones that which I actually listened to and attended. So Mulraj, your topic and selection was good. Even this time you improved your citation as well. So well done in that case. But as Mem has just pointed out, don't just read. Even when you answer questions, just look at people when you answer them. So that is one thing which you need to do. Otherwise, overall, when it comes to integrating the sources within this time, I was happy that unlike the neoclassical age presentation, this time you integrated the sources which you cited well into the presentation also. So in-text citation was also done. That's a good thing. You explained your point properly. Like in the previous presentation, neoclassical age presentation, I told you that introduction should contain some bit of information about the topic or event which you are talking about, right? This presentation had that. So that's a good progress in that case. Well done. Radhika, again cited the references well. So no mistakes in that case. So a good one in that case. However, I would suggest you to just organize the references a bit properly. And it looks a bit messy. Citation is perfect. The design or the justification of the fonts needs to be done. Otherwise, it looks a bit haphazard, right? So do that. Pronunciation, you need to work on that. So try to work on pronunciation of words like chaos and all those things. First source which you have cited, right? You need to cite it in MLA style, right? It is again a PDF, as you mentioned last time also. Now, as I suggested previously, PDFs can also have information which can be cited. If it is a journal article, you can mention the name of the journal, the author, the year in which it was published, the page numbers, ISSN numbers, all those things can be gained and then cited. So if you're using citation generator, for example, then once you open up the PDF, just look for these details. And I'm sure you'll find it. You'll be able to cite it properly. Otherwise, things are looking good. Improve the font size of the slides also when it comes to reading the presentation, right? People who listen as well as read, right, they have a difficulty in following if what I'm listening to is not the same as what I'm reading. So then in that case, font size plays a huge role. So do that. And one source which you have cited has been cited twice, right? So remove the extra one from the slide. Otherwise, PPT was good and you presented well as well. Priya, well done. Well organized content, well prepared PPT. You do need to work on your non-verbal skills, right? Again, a lot of you are like struggling with, I feel, a little bit of confidence level in this case. You do become too much conscious of people watching you. And it's obviously, and I'm not against that idea, I do get conscious myself. But when it comes to presentations, you have to just focus on what you have to convey, right? And try to gain as much confidence as possible. Try to look into the screen when answering, or look into the person who is questioning you. So that would be helpful. Otherwise, your arguments, your presentation were well prepared. Now there are some points. Now these are not, I'm not going to point out the mistakes or suggestions or anything, but a few pointers for further discussion and further exploration, which these people can definitely do. Siddharth, Grishma, Nidhi, even Mulraj, your topics dealt with a series of questions regarding what should be considered literature and what shouldn't be. What should criticism be? What should morality be? What should be the gaze? And how, literature should be produced, how it should be critiqued, how it should be received. Now, all these things are huge, pertinent questions which keep on repeating themselves with every new age, with every new medium that comes in. So, in the context of Nidhi's presentation, for example, when it comes to real estimate and personal estimate, a huge contestation presented by people against digital media reading is that, as you pointed out in your presentation as well, it is biased and there is too much close reading and people do get personal estimate a lot. They get involved with the reading and analysis of the text which is at hand. But the question then is, and if you are siding with Arnold in this case, saying that that is not the correct way of critiquing the text, it should be objective and disinterested. In that case, digital media by its nature demands that you do close reading, right? If you don't do close reading, you will miss out on details. So when it comes to disinterestedness in such a case, right, print media can do that. Like, you can have an overview of the text, or let's say you can stay away from the text. But when it comes to digital media, their nature itself demands that you engage yourself with it first and then analyze it. Otherwise, if you haven't engaged with the media, you won't be able to identify crucial points about the nature of the media, about the nature of the text. What is the text telling you? That won't happen. So then how would we then distinguish between what is personal estimate and what is real estimate, right? So that is something which now needs to be thought about. When it comes to Arnold himself, his touchstone method, which you also cited in your presentation, it itself is biased. If you look, the method begins with what? Selecting some standard or idealized works, which can be considered personal, as Arnold calls it, right? So then in that case, how do you then have ever a disinterested estimate or a real estimate in that case? How do we ensure objectivity when the text itself, or the critique or the critic who is suggesting this kind of a disinterested outlook himself is biased in that case? But every time, and this is a general observation, every time you make a choice, you are biased. The moment you decide, the moment you select, you do get biased. It's obvious, natural to happen. And criticism without selection is impossible, because you have to narrow down the theory, right? Contextualize the theory within a particular framework. Now, if you want to contextualize, you'll have to provide examples, right? Okay, this is where the theory can be applied. This is where the theory can be applied. Once you do that, you will start getting personal estimate. So then, therefore, the very idea of objectivity can be contested. The very idea of what is real and what is personal can be questioned. So all these questions you can now explore further in your next semesters also, when you learn new theories in criticism, right? You can now look into all these questions and what new critics are saying about these things. So when it comes to algorithmic bias, for that matter, the person who creates algorithm, that is where the bias is, right? That is where the root cause of bias is. Now, as long as we are humans and as long as we keep creating algorithms, our algorithms will be biased, right? So then that is the case. Grishma's presentation again dealt with this idea of what literature should be, or what should be considered, should be part of the aim or end result of literature in that case. Should literature be moral or aesthetic, right? Should it be about emotion, or should it be morally upright? Trilling and Poe both, they deal with these questions at large. But then when you study the history of literature and the history of criticism, literary criticism, you'll find that same kind of debate gets repeated from time to time. And in fact, it was Eliot who came up with a similar kind of a problem in his Dissociation of Sensibility. He also highlighted the same thing, that until a particular age in literature, what you find is that people are able to combine the personal as well as the societal. But then after one point in history, they are not able to do so, and therefore you find a dissociation of sensibility. And therefore then what you have is a creation of two groups. One group who is highlighting the emotional, psychological, the personal, subjective side of literature. The other group who is arguing for objectivity, morality, societal concerns, so on and so forth. So then this debate is endless, right? There is no final verdict. And it will keep on happening as and when new mediums, new platforms, and new ways of creating literature will come up. So then, therefore, we have to revisit our definition of morality. We need to revisit our definition of literature itself in that case. What do we consider? Language itself is currently under the phase of redefinition. So then all these things are supposed to be discussed later. You can also explore it in a deeper level as well. Siddharth, when it comes to gazes, perceptions, opinions, again, they are framed by those who create, use, and own the lenses, right? So if you look at, again, if you look at the, since this is a history presentation series, if you look at the history of entire theories or entire literature in itself, criticism included, language included, mediums included, then you will see that all interpretation is done by people who own the means of interpretation. So let's say if you want to interpret a text, what are the means of interpretation for you? You should know the language. You should know that it's a piece of paper supposed to be read in such a way. You should know the patterns through which you can read, right? And the basics, lights should be there, right? You can't read in the dark. So you need something to help you out with that. You need something to keep the book on, or at least hold the book, right? You need, again, the language, not just of words and all those things, but pronunciation patterns. You should also know the there's commas and a little bit of punctuation also. You should know the tones, you should know the rhythm, and so on and so forth. You should know the cultural context of the language which is used. It can be English, but it can be very different, right? So then, therefore, who interprets, how, and why is dependent upon who owns the means of interpretation. The person who doesn't know language, the person who doesn't own a light, right? The person who doesn't know how to read can never, ever, right? And that is where today we find the concept of ableism, if you have heard the term, right? Ableism is the kind of concept which says that people have started looking at literature, they have started viewing social events and political events by assuming or presupposing the fact that other people will also be able to do that, right? Now, how do you ensure that other people will also be able? How do you know if you are able and the other person is also able? What if the other person is not able to read, not able to see, not able to learn language? So then all these things. Therefore, when it comes to the projection of women, again, we have to remember that the means of production of literature, of media, the means of reading literature, the means of understanding literature, language, and all these things, faculties, skills, were not owned by women for a very long time. They were not taught, right? And therefore, uh, it is obvious that somebody else will do it for them, right? And that is where the problem lies, right? The means of understanding, the means of interpretation, the means of production of literature are not evenly distributed, right? And therefore the whole dynamics of power and conflict and all these things come in once again. And for this, for these kind of interpretations, I would like suggest you to read Media and Platform Studies, Media Studies, Platform Studies, Ableist Outlook, all these things you can look into a bit more detail, and you'll find quite interesting ways of interpretation. So that's where I conclude. And good work, all of you. I said this in the morning session as well, that this time we do find quite a lot of improvement from the first day of presentation to the fifth day of presentation. Quite good improvement is done. You, each one of you are taking into consideration the suggestions that are made, and you are making the necessary changes and edits also. So it's a good going, and well done to all of you. This is where I end the live also. Okay.